Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
And Jeff Cork.
Hi, buddy.
Hell of a show we got, Jeff Cork.
Yep.
We're talking about a bunch of things. Talking about Crackdown 3. Jeff Cork has been playing it for review. Kyle's been playing it for S's and giggles. Then talking about Jump Force. Hey, Anime Fiesta. Here we go.
Yep.
Far Cry New Dawn. Metro Exodus. It can't go on. Can't go on, but it will. Nintendo Direct. Big Nintendo Direct yesterday. We'll break down all the news. That should be fun. And then Matt Miller is going to be in here for the most Matt Millery segment.
For the last 4-hour segment. No, I'm just kidding. We're
going to keep him short. He's talking about Audica, a new game from Harmonix, which we just talked about on last week's episode of the podcast. It's like, when is Harmonix going to announce a new game? Well, it turns out that some of us at the table knew secretly that they were working on a new game.
Go back and watch me sweat.
Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing, but it's fun timing.
And for the record, I'm just sweating because that's what I do. So I'm not withholding any information.
Middle half of the show, we have community emails, some very fun ones in there. Back half of the show, just packing this sucker full. Do you remember on, let's see, I guess it was Groundhog Day this year. There was a strange tweet coming from the PlayStation Twitter account announcing a game called Groundhog Day, like father, like son, VR. And the entire world said, what is happening? We find out in this episode what happens. We've gathered together every voice that made that game come to be. We have Raul Rubio from Tequila Works. They worked on Rhyme and Invisible Hours. Ethan Stearns from MWM Immersive. And Jake Zim, the Senior VP of VR for Sony Pictures. We got all of them together to explain how a Groundhog Day video game came to be, why it came to be, how it works. I guess ultimately everything's money. You'd like this, Cork.
Yeah?
They consulted the original screenwriter, Danny Rubin, for Groundhog Day. And they have some good deep cuts.
Some lore?
Yeah, some Groundhog Day lore. If you're into Groundhog Day lore even, I think it's an interview for you.
I am.
And everybody has to be because it's probably the best movie ever.
That's a movie
It's
you
up
can
there.
see that
All right.
people like.
It's great. It's one of the most creative movies ever made, I would argue.
What would you guess Groundhog Day, like father, like son VR, will be rated? Jeff
What
Cork?
will it be rated?
Yeah.
I'm going to say T for teen.
I think the answer might surprise you.
Really?
Stay tuned for the interview, everybody.
E10?
That's it.
E10
Also,
plus?
we should mention everyone's going to be talking about Anthem because it's that crazy EA release schedule where technically people will be playing it on Friday. We are also going to be playing it. We'll have some footage up on GameInformer.com, but we're saving the big bulk of Anthem until we actually have something new to say, so that'll be next week. But for now, Jeff Cork, Crackdown 3. It's been a long time coming. We had the developers on the show a little while ago, and they described the development of the game as interesting.
Really?
How did it turn out?
I should clarify, just right out of the gates, there's that Wrecking Zone multiplayer mode, right?
Yeah.
Which, if you think back to several years ago, that was, as far as I remember, that was the first playable slice of that game that they let us demo.
Okay.
That's the part that they're withholding till the very last moment. So reviews are hitting today.
Okay.
Embargo lifted, but my review's not ready yet because I need to play that on live servers.
Okay.
It could be a terrible disaster, but I have played through the entirety of the single-player campaign.
So we can't say your
and some
score because
co-op.
it's not there, but
Right.
general impressions, what's your takeaway after playing all that?
Boy, I want to back up a little bit. I think that it's been
Starting strong.
Just running in reverse
No,
here.
I think this is a game that people have already gone into it with knives out.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
they think they've seen screenshots, they've seen the way it looks, and they're like, "This is hot trash. Microsoft sucks."
We did a stream yesterday, and that seems to be 90% of the chat.
Well, I wasn't allowed to say anything at that point, but yeah, people were not into it, and they said this looks like a last-gen game. A lot of super cool, smart Agents of Mayhem comparisons. Ultimately, though, I think its biggest problem is that it is inoffensively okay across the board. I think that it's been 12 years since the first Crackdown came on.
Yeah.
And it seems as though, they had the Crackdown sequel that came out that did some really weird things. Remember there was like agility orbs that ran away from you and it had like some weird Shy-Gen zombie-like things and you had to fight off a bunch of them and it was super lame
They
and
just
terrible.
reused the open world and destroyed some
They
of
just
its
broke part of the open world
Yeah.
whatever. But this one seems like they're like, okay, we're going to pretend Crackdown 2 didn't happen. So instead, we're just going to make... It really does feel like Crackdown 1.5.
But what the weird thing is, you like Crackdown 1, I presume.
Yes, I did.
So why not like this?
Because I liked Crackdown 12 years ago.
Right.
And the world has kept spinning.
As you can tell from Jeff Cork's beard, the
As
world has moved on over 12
Exactly.
years.
It
You
has
can
moved
finally
over.
shave your
I
beard
look
now
like-
that Crackdown 3 is
Yeah,
out.
this was my can't wait for Crackdown 3 beard. So see you later.
Yeah.
And
that's all it is? I mean, if this game, it just feels so old that it's just that template isn't fun anymore?
I think a lot of it is just that what Crackdown did that was really fun and exciting has just been part of the open world landscape. Like I played with Kyle, and I'll use a phrase that's common in the part of the world where Kyle's from. Kyle, bless his heart, seemed to be having a great time with it, and like shooting a rocket launcher at a car or making a car jump into the air amused him to no end. But these are things that I've done in every sandbox game since Crackdown came out.
We've done it in multiple Saints Row games until by the end we're like, we've had enough. Get out of hell. Hey, Saints Row, take a break. And then you have some new game coming out that's like, it's kind of like those early Saints Row games. Like, yeah, no.
It really, like, it just seems like such a bare bones sandbox experience at this point. I think that the world is not very interesting to look at. It just seems like very sterile overall. There aren't interesting side missions to do. There's like some collecting stuff. Obviously, you have the agility orbs, so a lot of collecting stuff there. But then there's some other things you can kind of collect, like some lore things. And just overall, it is, I think, the pinnacle of mediocrity.
Well, here's where you're wrong.
Oh.
Kyle Hilliard has the floor. Number one lover
Here
of
we
all
go.
things. Hey,
Here
it's
we
Valentine's
go.
Day, so let's get gushing.
All right, Cupid.
I agree, actually, like full on with everything as Cork. Everything that Cork is saying about Crackdown, like it should have been Crackdown 2. Like this is a great game from 2009. But that being said, like I'm having an awesome time with it. Like I love just watching this character sort of slowly grow as I'm leaping from building to building. and
Slowly
just-
grow?
Yeah, I mean, because like it's like every bullet you fire, every enemy you kill makes your shooting better. Everything you blow up makes your explosions bigger. Every agility orb you find makes you jump higher. And I'm just like, as far as just like destructive is like not even the right word because
it's not.
nothing is destroyed other than like the bombs that you're blowing up.
You can move like lawn furniture around.
Yeah,
With
like
the power of the cloud.
I don't think so. I don't know if the cloud is integrated.
It's just
in
for
the campaign
multiplayer
in any way.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like just as like a sort of just sandbox of just like run around, jump it, blow stuff up. I'm having a great time. Like I'm really liking it a lot. Like I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
But Jeff Corker saying it's like a sandbox that's been left out for the weather since 2009.
Sandbox
Yeah.
poured from a bag of concrete.
Like, I think-
that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, and like I can't really counter that. There's nothing like
Yeah.
particularly innovative in it, but it's just like a decently executed like superhero action game. Like it makes me think of like Infamous, and I really liked Crackdown 1. And I'm just finding a lot of joy in just leaping from buildings and collecting agility orbs and like slamming my fist in the ground and calling in a car. Which is nice. You don't have like the original Crackdown. You had to like get in your car when you started the game.
Yeah.
Here you can just call in your car whenever you want. Then you can transform your car into a jumping car that can drive up on the side of a
Yeah, I
building.
just saw a little bit of that live stream yesterday, and you were in a car, and then you just jumped it to the side of a building, and then drove up a skyscraper. It's like, all right, that's worth something
Like,
in a video game, right?
that kind of stuff. Like I'm just having a good time. Like I think there's a game that I like EDF. Like I'm not a big EDF guy. I've given it a shot. It's not really my thing. Joe and Cork really love that game.
Yes.
And we'll openly admit that it's kind of like a cheap, just like shoot-a-thon, right? Like
You didn't say that to developers' face last week, by the way, Jeff Cork, but
No,
pretty
it
convenient.
changed
Well,
my
it-
life.
they translated it differently. I think. But I think I'm not going to speak for Cork and Joe, but I think
Thank
I
you.
feel the way about Crackdown the way they feel about EDF. Like it's kind of old and. But it's just fun. Like I'm just having a good time.
Yeah.
Like it's a great podcast game. You just run around and blow stuff up.
I think the temptation that you need to avoid, at least in our jobs, is to not design the game that you want it to be, like what you're reviewing, in your mind.
Yes.
And then penalize the game for not doing that.
I think
right?
a lot of people do that as critics. Like, oh, the game should have been this.
It should have been this.
Yeah.
It should have had this system. This should have been there. But at the same time,
But-
no. But I think it's also important to realize, like, if you are going to deliver something that has not made any strides in a meaningful way from a dozen years ago, that is a problem. Because I mean, like that, like I think we just take for granted a lot of RPG-like systems and things that just kind of make games feel fresher. And not to say that Crackdown 3 needed those, but I wouldn't have objected for a little more development in innovation, I think, overall.
There's just not much depth to the overall game.
No, that's
like,
because,
I mean, you're just shooting bad guys and blowing stuff up, and then you get in a car and drive like a mile, and you're like, oh, here's another thing I can shoot and blow
then
up.
you realize, oh, driving sucks ass. I'll do the bare minimum of this because it is an awful experience that I can't stand.
Yeah, but you can go up a building. So I think a good frame of reference for people trying to figure out, like, would I be into this? Is like, Kyle, you're number one Agents of Mayhem defender.
Yeah,
you gave that game an 8, and everyone's like, F that.
Yeah, everyone was really upset with, mostly just you, was really upset with me about that. Because I think that is a game that, like Crackdown, wasn't like hugely innovative or anything like that, but had fun moments and fun action. And I like the movement and action of Crackdown 3 more than Agents of Mayhem.
Well, the movement in Crackdown 3, that's what the most frustrating thing about it is like, I wish I could copy and paste that character. Not the character, but just the way the character moves around in the world into, like, I'd be happy if that was an alternate control set for Amazing Spider-Man. Because I freaking love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great.
Just jumping far?
Jumping far, the way that it's tuned beautifully. Just like if you're like, you see like platforming puzzle and you can intuitively know where you need to get what you need to do to get there, and then you just can do it instantly.
Yeah,
it's
really
great.
It's a small addition, but you have a double jump, which I believe I think was in Crackdown 1. I don't remember. But there's a double jump, but then the new thing that you have is just a forward dash. So you can jump, and dash forward. And that just feels
great.
It's so good for just like getting that last little bit of coverage to get to that ledge. You know? And it works really well. And you can upgrade it if you get enough agility orbs. You can then do it twice. So you can double jump and then dash forward twice.
Yeah, the movement is absolutely great, but then
it's the highlight of the game for sure.
Yeah.
Then you're moving to location doing things that aren't particularly interesting, just using rocket launchers to blow up more guys.
I guess like use a rocket launcher and blow up a helicopter and a big robot, man.
I mean, you say that sarcastically, but I mean, it is like this. It's left trigger, right trigger, left trigger, right, because you lock on. It's very generous with its lock on.
Kyle, are you going to fight for this game for Game Informer's top 50?
Oh, that's a good question.
The year?
I think I haven't beaten it yet, so Cork's giving me the side eye.
Jeff Cork seems horrified by that notion.
Yeah.
Unless there are only 50 games that come out this year, in which case it's like, well, you've made a strong case.
I think I would. I mean, who knows what the rest of the year looks like, but I think I would raise my hand and be like, guys, I liked this. And you can make fun of me all you want.
I wouldn't even put it on the top 10 Microsoft games for the year. Like, it would just be a big D and Q next to Microsoft's name if it comes to it.
It's going to be me trying to get, what was it? In Sea of Thieves, at our top 10 moments, I tried to get docking your boat in Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, Kyle's number one docking proponent.
I literally stood up and almost walked out of the meeting because everyone was laughing at me so hard. That's me. I'm looking forward to that experience again with Crackdown 3.
Yeah, getting in the car at Crackdown 3 will be his moment.
It's cool. You press up on the D-pad, it just shows up.
So your review will be on the site soon, but we're leaning towards subpar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just side note, the original Crackdown backward compatible. They just and it's also available for free.
Yeah, that's true.
That is interesting.
Why don't you just do that?
Okay. Hey, Jump Force.
Hey, let's put me on the opposite spectrum.
Well, yeah, I'm curious to know. So this is the big Shonen Jump fighting game.
Yeah.
They've happened before, but no one really paid attention. And now it's like, hey, the big 3D version, right?
40 characters.
40
is it kind of drafting off of the success of Dragon Ball FighterZ in some ways, you think?
Well, I think in some way,
No.
I certainly think Microsoft is marketing it the same way. I mean, because they had fighters on the stage and it was a big deal. And then at last E3, I think they tried to draft with that success.
We're going to
and
make this a thing.
Jump Force, hey, you guys like Japanese anime, right? Hey.
You like that Japanimation stuff, right?
I think it's a little bit from Microsoft's angle in terms of like, their partnership.
It's got that orange guy with the spiky hair.
Right. But it's out on everything, or it's out on PS4 and PC and Xbox
Switch.
at least. So Jump Force, how is it?
It's not great. I'm trying to think of what avenue to talk about first, because there's
Why don't we start with the good games on this podcast?
Yeah.
Who organized this thing?
The combat it has been growing on me. Like, the review's not ready yet. I've been playing it a lot. I'm starting to find some of the intricacies in the combat. It's still pretty shallow.
Yeah.
It's still mostly just a sort of platform to show off big attacks from familiar characters, like Goku doing Kamehamehas and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to execute those. And so, like, a lot of the time, like, when I'm fighting in the game, it's a lot of just like, oh, yep, here comes this animation. Okay, all right, we're back into the fight now. Let me do my Kamehameha. Okay, that animation is complete. All right, now let's like move on to the next thing. And that's like how a lot of the fights feel. It's just like showcase for big animations back front.
Kyle, I have a question. Is it similar to when you're playing Super Smash Brothers Ultimate and Yoshi uses his ultimate attack or her ultimate attack, and then you just see that stampeding animation of all the different Yoshis coming, and you're like, well, here we go.
Yeah, if they're all screaming Japanese words.
And
then, yeah.
and it happened like every 40 seconds.
All right, thank you.
That's
Really?
kind of what it would be like, yeah. And so that I'm somewhat positive on the combat there. Like, it's a lot of watching, but there is like counters and dodges and stuff that make it kind of interesting. But then everything around it is rough. Like the story is like silly and goofy. It's just an excuse to like mash all these characters together. Whatever. I don't care about that. But the sort of the way like cutscenes are presented are just so dull and boring. It's just characters standing still doing idle animations and just like turning their head slightly to talk to each other.
You're describing this podcast.
And well, we're not a $60 game for Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah, I think this podcast is free. Tell a friend.
And like you can see on our new gameplay today, on the few occasions where they do like try to have a little bit of interesting animation, it either just like falls apart. Like they didn't even put a walk animation for a character leaving a frame, and then they cut to black for something
Every time there's
interesting to
anything
happen.
complex animation-wise.
And it's laughable. And then there's like the lobby area. One thing we didn't mention is that this game is, you're talking about drafting off the success of fighters. That's how Microsoft sees it. Yeah. But I think for Bandai Namco, they're drafting off the success of the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games.
Oh, yeah. I've watched you play that, yeah.
Yeah, it's structured the same way in that like the combat's very similar, and then you have this like hub area with lots of people. And the hub area in Xenoverse 2 was big and had lots of Dragon Ball references and people running around.
It's also pretty janky.
It's janky, but like it's something I actually liked about the game. But here, it's a lot more cramped and like it just looks bad. It's just like people like in like Frieza's like hovercraft, like just like clipping through people riding frogs, and like there's no like I think in what is it Destiny they capped that area out at like I don't know like 16 players or something.
Sure,
I could be wrong about that number.
I'm sure you are.
But here it's like it feels like there's like 50 people in there all the time, and like it's just this big mashup of characters just trying to do like missions. And I even have trouble.
People bought the game for the mashup of characters, Kyle.
But it's too many, Hanson. It's too many. But like even walking up to the counter to like, all right, I got to do these key missions, these story missions. Like your cursor selects all the other players standing there before you like get close enough to select a mission.
Why do they think that's appealing? Why is it like the worst parts of an MMO are being pulled into our single-player games?
That term that someone tried to coin, mingle player. It's
like Cliffy B joint.
Cliffy B joint. Yeah, that's the mingle player idea, where it's like you're aware that other people are there, but
that makes it a better experience somehow.
I don't know. There was a guy dressed as Cell who was like jumping next to me, and I did some jumping too. I guess we were having fun.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's like just low production values for everything surrounding the game. The combat's like okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
What's like the good mashup stuff? Like, you know, what are the characters? How do they interact? What's funny?
Yeah. So I do like in terms of the mashup aspect of the game, I do like seeing characters that I like from anime and manga and stuff talking to each other. That's fun. Like there's like just small bits of like. I don't know if Korik, are you familiar with Luffy from One Piece?
Yeah, naturally.
Yeah, of course. He's a little bit like Goku in that like he just loves eating. Like him and Goku are just always talking about eating all the time.
Yeah.
So like there was a cutscene of them standing still, staring at each other, arguing about like, oh, you ate all the food, you idiot, and then like it's like little character moments like that. Like maybe that's a very broad example. These two characters like food, so they argue about food.
Right.
But I do like that stuff.
That's fun. I agree.
And then like. There is a certain amount of joy of like playing as Deku from My Hero Academia and like doing one of his like Detroit Smash attacks against Goku while he's charging up a Kamehameha.
Yeah,
like
of course.
There's something satisfying about that because I really like My Hero Academia and I like Dragon Ball Z, and that's just on paper like that's a fun thing to see. Deku hit Goku as hard as he can. It's like a fun idea.
Yeah. You said something about like a Dragon Quest character.
Yeah, I don't know his name, but like there was a very popular Dragon Quest manga that Jump published. It was not connected to any of the games. They did not like adapt it into a game. So there is a Dragon Quest character that you can play as who's never been in a Dragon Quest game as far as I know. He's only been in a manga and then an anime adaptation. And there's fun stuff like that. Like there's a lot of characters that like I I don't know, like that I've had to research. I wish there was like an in-game sort of database to tell me like a little bit of history about these characters, but there's not.
That seems like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I wish Smash Brothers had that too, just like for the trophies and everything, just like a little
100%.
bit of history. So it's kind of fun being like, who the heck is this guy? Because there's like all these fantasy characters, but then there's like this detective who just has a gun, and his special attack, he drives up in a car. And he just looks like a normal person, and it's like, who is this guy? This is weird. And I like that kind of goofy stuff. But,
yeah. So your review will be on the site sometime soon.
Yeah. I couldn't even tell you when, Hanson. I'm not sure.
That's fine. Yeah. Jump force, ladies and gentlemen. Don't run, don't walk.
Yeah.
Just play fighters.
For now, Kyle, do you want to clap out?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff Marchiafava, welcome to the big show, sir.
Hey.
You are Skyping in from lovely, beautiful Los Angeles, is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
Jeff is sick, and he's in quarantine at his wonderful home in Minneapolis. So even though Game Informer is located in Minneapolis, he's not that far away. We didn't want him to come near and touch us because he's a very touchy gentleman.
Yeah, full disclosure, he can afford closet doors. Yeah, we get it.
Jeff Marchiafava, you are reviewing Far Cry New Dawn, correct?
Yeah.
How far are you with that review?
I'm done.
You're done, baby. You got a score and everything?
Yep.
Okay. No other game on this show so far has had a score, so please tell us the score for Far Cry New Dawn.
7.
Damn it!
7.
We're just rolling dice and getting 7s over and over.
Hey, we didn't make this week.
Yeah, that's
not
true.
our fault.
All right, Jeff Marchiafava, Far Cry New Dawn. This is the sequel to Far Cry 5, Far Cry's first real post-apocalyptic game. Jeff Cork, you played a little bit as well?
Yeah, I was Fava's co-op buddy.
Great, and you reviewed Far Cry 5, if I recall.
And Far Cry Primal.
Oh, great. Oh, so it's a perfect frame of reference. Is this the Far Cry Primal to Far Cry 5?
No.
Is this the... I don't know. I guess it doesn't really fit anything exactly, but does it feel new enough, or does it feel like this is just more Far Cry 5 in a slightly different setting?
It is mostly more Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
At least with Primal, they tried to do something completely different and really drastically change things. Here, it is the same gameplay. Things look weirder because the apocalypse makes things hot pink now or whatever. But the gameplay is the same, and most of the other changes that they've made have been kind of superficial or haven't added a lot to the formula.
But wouldn't you argue that the core Far Cry gameplay is pretty fun overall?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I got a 7. And if you're still really excited about that formula of taking down abandoned camps and doing stealth takedowns and shooting a bunch of stuff mindlessly, it's still a lot of fun, and I had fun the entire time that I was playing it as well. It just doesn't do a lot of new and interesting things, and the new things it does do aren't super great.
Like what?
It kind of changes all the progression systems around, but all the things that you're unlocking are still all the same that they have been in a bunch of different in a bunch of different games. So, it's all kind of crafting focused now, and you're getting a bunch of different components, but you're still unlocking the same abilities, the same weapon types, and all those kind of things. It's just in a slightly different way than previous games.
Yeah.
You have to unlock binoculars, Ben Hansen.
Okay.
Yes. And the biggest bummer, I would say, is the kind of skill tree. The perks that you get in this game feel so phoned in that there's not a single one that you're excited about. There are a couple that you absolutely have to get, like the binoculars, because they're so important to the normal gameplay. And, you always started with binoculars in the previous games. Now you have to unlock them. But there aren't a lot of things where it's like, oh, that's exciting. I want to actually get that because, that's something new.
Right. Does the world seem cool? I saw there's like a screenshot with like a mossy-looking buffalo. That seems all right.
Does the what look
world?
Cool? The what?
The world, you sicko. What, are your ears falling off?
Yeah. The world, it doesn't do anything super interesting. It's recycling the map, which a lot of people complained about. I don't have that much of a problem with it. The aesthetics are different, and the color palette is much brighter and whatever. I think there was an interesting chance to do something interesting going back to a place that has been ruined, that you kind of already know what it's like. But in practice, it's just kind of a bunch of bombed out buildings, and I didn't recognize, a lot of the landscape and been like, oh, in Far Cry 5, it was like this, and that's interesting. It's just kind of another open world, to run around in.
Do they call it Montana, or do they have some wacky new name for this post-apocalyptic version of Montana?
No, they mostly still refer to it as Hope County.
Oh, okay.
Your new home base is Prosperity.
All right. Jeff Cork, are you going to play this game outside of the co-op stuff you've already played?
It's really tough. I think I'll need to make time for it.
Oh, really? You want to play it?
Yeah, I want to like it. No, it seems fine for what I played. I am a sucker for games that have a hub that you can upgrade and improve over time, which this does have, which I'll probably play it long enough to invest enough in there to see how everything grows. I did, Fava's town was very prosperous, you might say, to the point where he even had, radios all over the place playing, the Monkees.
What? Really?
And I could not find a way to turn any of them off. Or you can't punch them because you're in his town.
I told Jeff Cork one of my favorite parts is because they play all those old Beach Boys songs and everything in every outpost, and one of my favorite parts was just role playing as a person who hates that music, and every time I'd go into an outpost, I would relentlessly track down where the boombox is and just punch it immediately.
Yeah.
All right. See, there's fun to be had.
Yeah, you got to make your own fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else stand out? Anything super notable about Far Cry New Dawn?
I would say they made a big deal about the expedition missions, which are kind of the one new addition, and those are interesting, and I think they're ultimately a good addition to the formula. They kind of take you off into their own smaller location, and you're trying to track down this bag that you have to then run out while waves of enemies are chasing you, and it's a solid addition. It's just I wish there was more of that kind of thing and more risk taking with the formula.
Yeah. So okay.
And a better story.
So the expeditions overall, it's kind of like, I don't know why my mind immediately jumped to Fallout 3's DLC, like Operation Anchorage or something, where it's just you're going to completely different environments, but just kind of a small version of it.
Yeah, it was weird. I did some of them with Fava, and a helicopter drops you in, and then you have to find this beeping backpack, and the levels we played, they're largely empty at the beginning. There are a few enemies patrolling, but then once you pick that up, all the enemies just start spawning, and they'll just keep spawning forever until you go to the extraction site.
Okay.
And the helicopter lands, and then you have a certain amount of time you have to stay before it takes off again.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think conceptually it's interesting.
It's kind of like half an outpost mission. Essentially, when you start it, there are just a few patrolling enemies that you can hopefully silently take down. But then once you get that backpack, it's kind of a dash to the extraction zone and a lot more action focused.
Gotcha. Okay, so you can check out your review for Far Cry New Dawn on GameInformer.com. You can get even more details. And you wrote the review while dying of the disease that you're currently inflicted with, right?
So that's good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it really, your heart and sweat and tears went into this sucker.
And lots of snot.
Great. All right. Jeff Fava, thank you so much for taking time. Now go collapse into a big barrel of tea or whatever the hell you're doing.
I'm doing it.
You want to clap out? Oh, JV Gwaltney.
Hi.
Fingerless gloves.
Hi.
The worst sound to clap with. And we have Matt Burtz.
Hello.
Now, Matt Burtz, are you also sick from home Skyping in, or where are you Skyping in from?
No, I'm at DICE. I'm hanging out with a bunch of really talented game developers this week.
That sounds great. And for, maybe some new listeners, people that don't know the industry that well, what is DICE overall? What's going on over there?
DICE is kind of a leadership summit where a lot of people are just talking about the emerging trends in the space. So, there's been a lot of cloud talk, edge computing talk, machine learning behavior, stuff like that we're going to see influencing the games in the years to come.
It feels just like, another GDC? How does it differentiate from GDC?
It's kind of more, I would say it's still really more focused on, AAA type developers. There's a mobile presence here for sure. There's some AR and VR, but you're not getting legions of indie developers here. You'll see the Nathan Vellas here and there, but it's a lot of you're walking around, you're like, oh, there's Cory Barlog, he just made the Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Geronimo Barrera, he made the other Game of the Year. You know, like these are the types of people that are having cocktails and you know, catching up.
So it's the best place on earth. Is that what you're saying?
I love it.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome. Hey, Metro Exodus, you reviewed it, right?
Yes, I did.
Please give me that score.
I gave it an 8.75.
We got one, Cork.
Yep.
We got a good game to talk about. Here we go.
Yeah,
We've
it's
been
been a bit of a dry spell here.
running on
Brooks.
fumes for the first half of the podcast. JV Gold, you've been playing how much Metro?
I think I'm right near the end.
Okay.
So I think I'm in the last fourth of it.
Perfect. And the three of us went on the cover story trip and visited
did.
that studio out in Malta, which was bizarre. Jeff Cork, how much have you played?
About an hour or so.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Your first impressions, Cork. Let's go with the dumbest first.
The dumbest first. It looked good on TV.
Well, you're saying that like going from Crackdown 3 to Metro is just laughable.
Oh God!
it's stunning.
I imagine.
Like,
yeah.
Obviously, a false comparison to draw. So let's
Right.
be very clear here. But
Right.
like, yeah, Metro Exodus is gorgeous.
Yeah, and not quite open world, but more in that vein, but not full Crackdown 3. But Matt Burtz, you knew a lot going in. What surprised you about Metro Exodus?
You know, I think the thing that surprised me most is the way they did their storytelling. The voiceover work, there's a lot of it in this game, a lot more compared to the previous Metro games.
Huh.
That's not necessarily a good thing, I would say.
Oh.
Because the voice acting is just awful. I mean, I
Really?
haven't heard voice acting this bad in a long time. It seems, you know, like as the industry's gotten more comfortable working with like the Screen Actors Guild and, you know, like casting and stuff like that, you usually get pretty decent performances. But I strongly recommend that you switch to the Russian voiceover and just do subtitles.
Yeah, it's like the perfect storm of awful too, because like the voice acting is bad enough by itself, but when you combine it with like Russian translated into English, all Russian novels have this problem where like when a character is talking about everything, they just explain it in the most stilted way possible, and that's all of Metro. So you have all these characters just giving these like emotionally dead sort of like soliloquies. It's very weird.
Like 15 minutes, and then Artyom is still in this like Gordon Freeman silent protagonist setting, and it's just so awkward.
There's one scene where you're comforting your wife while she's complaining about like just various things, and like Artyom's only interaction, and it's a player one, it's just like tap her on the shoulder as though to say they're there. Like that's it. That's
Okay.
literally it.
So you convert it to Russian, you can alleviate some of that stuff. What about just like, without spoiling anything, kind of big picture, you happy with the overall story it tells?
I'm glad they did what they basically, you know, if the first two games were really influenced by Half-Life 2, I would say, you know, where you'd kind of walk up and a scene would start to play. There's a little bit of element of that in this as well, but in between your sandboxy missions, you're always on the Aurora train, and you can walk around and have these conversations, and it really has that Wolfenstein New Order vibe.
Oh.
You know, two Wolfenstein games, they're really tapping into that so much so that like two of the characters feel really similar to Wolfenstein characters. So Tokarov, who's like the weapons expert, is just like Set Roth. I mean, even the same voice actor, right, Jamie?
Yeah, he's literally voiced by Set Roth. You guys remember that on the trip when we were in that demo, and like you two were asking like all these great questions, and I was sitting there quietly, and then they got to that character in the Watchtower. Who's that inventor? I was like, oh yeah, that's the Set Roth guy, or that's the voice actor who did Set Roth.
Yeah.
And Prof, who's like the head honcho over there, just looked at me and was like, yes.
Correct. The creative director
Yes.
over there, yeah. Is it a spoiler to say if the Dark Ones are in the game?
I don't know. Well, you remember when we were on the trip, they really kind of minimize those questions. They kind of shoot them away.
Yeah.
There are supernatural elements in this game, but like the weird, are they space aliens? Are they just irradiated weird, you know, apparitions? That stuff isn't addressed in this game at all. This is really more of a human tale of these people traveling across the country and trying to find a place to settle.
Yeah. So the more open structure, I mean, there have been openish areas, just like what the swamps in Metro Last Light, I remember, was like that place that wasn't too far in, where it really started to open up a little bit. But does the gameplay Metro like hold up with the embiggening of the world?
For me, I ended up liking it because they were really smart about how they paced this game and like what they bring to each little micro sandbox or region. there's not a ton of things to go do, but there's enough that you're like, oh, there's a point of interest over there. I'm going to walk over there. It doesn't take too long. You're not covering vast expanses like you would in Fallout, but you're walking over, and then maybe it's an underground area that feels more like classic Metro, or maybe it's like above ground and you're interacting with some of the factions that you're running up against. Russia's got some really classy factions going on in this post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah,
there's cannibals. There's religious fanatics
who worship fish.
A lot of good people.
That seems fun. Yeah. JV, are you digging the game overall?
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. I mean, Bert's texted me, like he had a couple of hours ahead of me. He was like, "This is really Wolfenstein-y." And I was like, "Oh, then I'll probably like it." And lo and behold, I like it. I like the storytelling outside of the bad voice acting, and I like the gameplay in the open world setting. Like I really like firefights in that game in a way that I didn't like in the original Metro. Like I really like just getting into like sniper battles. Like there's a great sniper battle scenario in like the desert setting that's super good.
Oh, I'm into that.
Yeah, so I really like the firefights. I really like sort of how flexible combat is, like how you can just attach anything onto your weapon on the go, and stealth is fun. That's always been like a really fun thing to do in Metro is just walk around and chuck throwing knives at people and kill them.
So without the bullet currency, without gas mask, really, as far as I know, at least.
You use it a fair bit.
Oh, it is there.
Yeah.
Okay, but does it still feel like a Metro game? Have they changed up the formula just the right amount?
Yeah, I'd say so. It still feels like a Metro game.
Yeah, for sure. And if you really want that classic Metro experience, I would say kick up the difficulty immediately, because I played on normal, and I'm scavenging pretty thoroughly, and I never felt like I was running out of stuff. The attrition wasn't there.
Yeah.
And if you kick up the difficulty, then you're going to have more of that, like, ooh, I really shouldn't waste these bullets on this skirmish. Maybe I'm just going to skip these guys altogether. The first game.
I've always had I still haven't beaten the game yet, but near the end, I've always had like a surplus of like medikits. I've always had more ammo than I needed, and that was never the case in like the first two Metros. Like I was always scavenging, always needed something, often using melee combat to get out of situations, and here I've always had more than I needed.
Okay. So, I mean, there's probably a lot of people who have never tried a Metro game. Is it okay to start here? Are you going to be missing out on a lot of important things?
I think it's segmented enough where you can get away with, if this is going to be your first one, you can jump in and they catch you up pretty quick. Like the opening sequence really sets the table of what's happened before. You're not going to get some of like the insider jokes about certain things, but you certainly can. But I mean, honestly, the Redux collection is amazing and it's cheap.
Yeah.
You can find that thing for dirt cheap. Like I would buy that and play that as well.
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out like who the ideal potential new audience here is, right? Because it's like people who like Wolfenstein, and then also maybe they really got a kick out of Resident Evil 2, and they're like, hey, I'm in for more kind of survival horror, tense, conserving bullets. Like, is that the ideal audience here?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, it definitely it's on a much smaller scale, but there is that Fallout vibe of like, I'm going to go over here and check out what's going on in this building. The areas are big enough to give you that kind of sentiment when you're moving through it.
Yeah. JV, what's the most fun you've had so far playing that game?
The most fun I've had so far playing that game, you get a vehicle. This is a minor spoiler. You get a vehicle in the desert section, and you can and it's like a shitty Russian version of a Volkswagen van.
Okay.
And you can just run down anyone you find in the desert, like just bandits running around. You just hit them, and the ragdoll physics, I'm not sure if it's done on purpose or not, but when you hit them, they like do that awkward rubber band thing where they just shoot out across the desert and just like flop around. So probably that.
Okay, so breaking the game is the most fun you had. I see.
Yes.
The vehicles work okay? Overall?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you don't do a ton with them, but they let you, cut through the wider region more
You get to drive the train?
No, you don't get to drive the train. You can stoke the train. You can go down and dig out some of the coal and throw it in there if you want. There's a couple different random things you can do on that train besides walk up and talk to people. There's a radio that you can kind of tune through and listen to like survivor chatter. You can go out and stand on the front. There's like a front railing area and just watch the countryside pass by. And I did that for like 5 minutes and there wasn't repetition.
That's
I don't
really
know
cool.
If you have a generator going that's just kicking out different buildings to go past and trees and stuff. But
yeah,
that was kind of beautiful to just sit out there and see the Russian countryside go past.
Yeah, like that's another thing that they've like taken from Wolfenstein and even expanded it beyond that in an interesting way. Is there's so many mundane actions you can just do walking around that. Like you can go out and like take a smoke break or something, or
cool.
just you don't get hammered, but you can drink vodka at your desk and this and that. It's very strange.
It doesn't do any like blurry vision or anything?
It did for me.
Well, you're a man's man. I get it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just those little mundane touches are interesting.
Awesome. Metro Exodus. I'm going to go right home, go on Steam, really dive into this game. I can't wait. Now, Epic Game Store. Yeah, Epic Game Store exclusive on PC. Fun times. Otherwise, what'd you play on, Birds?
I played it primarily on Xbox because I thought I might have to take it with me on the trip. I did load it up on PC, and it looks phenomenal. You know, if you got a high-end system that can support ray tracing and stuff like that, it's gorgeous.
That's going to be the benchmark. Okay, I need to upgrade my PC. Awesome. Great. Metro Exodus. Thank you for Skyping in, Birch. Really appreciate it. Is there some cool stuff from DICE going on Game Informer's site? They have the DICE Awards coming up soon, right?
Yeah, tonight.
Oh my gosh. All right, check it out. Otherwise, do all three of you want to clap out simultaneously? Don't make any mistakes. Hey, here we go. We have Serial Vasquez.
Hello.
And Imran Khan.
Howdy.
Skyping in from San Francisco. Holy God. Nintendo yesterday, they just treated February 13th as if it's the first day of E3. You never know what to expect with these Nintendo Directs, Imran. And then they just come flying out of the blue and it's like, hey, here's a Juggernaut one. Enjoy. We're moving on now. It's just like it's a 35-minute, just a good game and massage, you know?
Okay.
Imran, are
Just in time for Valentine's.
Exactly. Are you also just amazed by these things?
It's pretty interesting that like they've kind of eschewed the traditional like game news cycle and just do whatever whenever.
Right, and as they frame it, hey, here's some more Switch headlines. Here you go, sites. Write this one up, hotshot. Yeah, okay, sir, we got it. That's very exciting. There was a ton of little details, but there's also some big announcements. So we'll dive into all the things from Nintendo's Direct yesterday. Little details. First of all, like they announced like the release date for Final Fantasy VII on Switch, which is March 26th. I was like, all right, I'll be buying that again, I guess. And then, oh, by the way, Final Fantasy IX is out right now on Switch. It's like, okay, well, I have to go buy Final
We ported that
Fantasy
one way
IX.
faster, I guess.
Right. I saw somebody on Twitter being snarky saying like, oh, it's nice to see Square honoring Final Fantasy VIII's anniversary by releasing Final Fantasy IX. It's like, oh, God. It's brutal. Imran, what was the most exciting thing for you?
I really like that Platinum game. That looks super cool.
Astral Chain?
Astral Chain. What about it?
So it's the director behind Nier Automata's gameplay, like the actual like game part of it, not the writing or the scenario or all that.
Oh, weird.
So it's Takahisa Tora, which you have an interview with him on the site, I think. And it's being supervised by Hideki Kamiya, who is like the Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, all that, like the VP of Platinum.
Right, God himself.
Yeah. So it looks just like really visually stunning.
I loved when they just opened up with that trailer and they showed the cops, the weird sci-fi cops and all this stuff, and just seeing Twitter just run through its catalog of like, is this Monolith? This feels like Platinum. Could this be Platinum? It couldn't possibly be Platinum. Yeah, of course, Platinum is secretly working on 14 games, it turns out. It's crazy.
The chain-based combat is interesting, and that I think part of the mechanic is that you're sort of trying to tie the monsters down with like the chains that you like all the cops wear as they run around the city and stuff.
Yeah, we know that the G Police wear astral chains. We know video games.
That's true.
It's absurd. And then like at the end, Mr. Nintendo up there, he said like, hey, did you notice those characters fighting together? He gave a little hint. I don't know if that, do you think he was implying co-op or just that's like the core mechanic?
Co-op.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll have to resubscribe to Nintendo Online. Is that what this means?
Well, you're going to need to for Tetris anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, that was one of my biggest takeaways is I had just unsubscribed because I'm like, I'm never going to play Smash Online again, realistically. I love it, but it's just local multiplayer. And then the reveal of that effing Tetris game, Tetris 99, out now, free to play.
Tetris 99, I think, is the...
Oh, is it really?
No, it's not. No.
God damn it. This is basically, it's Tetris Battle Royale, and it's so stupid, and I was so on board for that. And the fact that
Switch Online exclusive, like you can't buy it unless you're a Switch Online subscriber.
It's a special offer for
because
Nintendo Online Switch.
you need to be online because you're playing with 98 other people, and they're all in the background of the Tetris field. And then as you're like getting Tetrises and sending blocks to other people's screen, it's all just. I'm confused how exactly that works, how you're interacting.
I don't know if it's
with.
random or if it's like select someone to send the blocks. If you see someone who's like getting piled on, you just send your blocks to them.
No one can scan 98 other screens to find
that's why
out.
I'm confused. Is it just like gameplay wise, is how different is this from regular Tetris?
As you're listening to this podcast right now, I promise I'm at home just blasting away at Tetris 99 because I know there's a lot of exciting things. That might be the second most exciting thing from that direct for me. Like, I love Tetris, and some new batch version of Tetris. Like, all right, I have to be on board for that. I can't say
Yeah,
no.
if it was just normal Tetris, again, like after Tetris Effect, I'd have no like real interest.
Right.
But super weird Tetris, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see how many more games we get that it's just like Tetris with a weird gimmick, because we can't just release regular Tetris anymore after Tetris Effect.
Speaking of weird stuff that's free, Deltarune, Suriel, one of your favorite games from last year, is being released on the eShop.
For free.
What are they? That seemed like such a good PC-focused test case of like, let's put it out for the PC crowd, get some feedback. But the idea of Toby Fox spreading out this weirdo kind of sort of Undertale sequel and putting it out on Nintendo system is insane.
I think maybe him porting it to Switch, I think maybe displays a little bit more confidence in what his idea and the direction he wants to go with this project. And I mean, that trailer just straight up mentions that, you know, there will be more chapters. It's not like he's doing something else after this, and they won't be free.
It's nice that they spelled that all out. Yeah,
and that very spoiler-free trailer, which I think was really cool.
Yeah,
it's a really good trailer.
But I think that so many more people are going to go to that thing. The idea of like, oh, I have to get it on PC and I have to give it permissions and all that stuff. Just the idea of, no, it's just on the eShop now.
Yeah, just go get it on the eShop. It's a really cool move for, like, I'm sure, you know, considering that series' inspirations, I'm sure he's really happy to be working with Nintendo. So
that's coming out February 28th there. Let's see. Opened with a humdinger, Mario Maker 2. Although
I'm very excited for that.
They could have just called it Mario Maker Deluxe. Does anybody really care? Mario Maker's great. Give it to us on Switch. Add some things. I'm good.
I think they emphasize that they're adding a lot of new features like slopes. They're adding sort of scrolling and like when you have those moving platforms that kind of extend. I don't know what those are called. The platforms that start as one block.
What are you talking about?
And they turn into 5 blocks.
You're talking about like the trail of blocks.
The
snaking blocks, yeah.
I love
there's a world castle that's specifically based around that idea.
Okay. I love how specific we're getting with Mario Maker editions, but totally works. It's exciting to see, they have like the cats and the bells from like 3D World that they're throwing into the new Super Mario Brothers set, which is a little bit funky, but
I think it's a new theme, completely. 3D World as itself is a theme.
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't pick up on that.
That's what they're replacing New Super Mario Brothers with.
I'm not sure. I want to say it was, but maybe I'm wrong.
It definitely looked better than the New Super Mario Brothers style did in Mario Maker.
Okay.
I think. It looked a little bit more high fidelity, so I think they are going with New Super Mario Brothers.
And it's coming out June 2019. Shockingly quick.
Yeah.
That's wild. And they obviously the sexiest thing of Mario Maker is what new themes they can add. They did not even need to acknowledge any of these now, but what do we expect?
What else? It'd be crazy if they just had like because 3D World's obviously a 3D game, but they're making it a 2D theme.
Yeah.
It'd be crazy if they just went like, here's Galaxy or here's Super Mario 64 theme.
Oh my God.
Where everything was just super blocky. I think that'd be super cool.
That would be just like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Like a 2D perspective on Super Mario 64 or something. Yeah. I mean, you think Doki Doki Panic, Mario 2, what are the chances of that happening?
It's too different. It's too different. If they had to do one, I'd think maybe Mario Land 2.
Yeah. Oh, Land 2?
Yeah.
Not Land 1?
Because it's the one that plays the most like the rest of the games.
Yeah, but I think aesthetically, there's something funkier about Mario Land 1. I'd be bummed out if it's Mario Land 2. But I guess they have to choose one of those, right?
Yeah.
Whichever one's
I do like how Luigi's in the title art and the box art was nowhere in that trailer. Not even once.
Well, you can't give him the dignity of actually showing him in gameplay. People love Yoshi's Island. Speaking of too different, is that just no chance for that art to pop in there?
I don't think they would consider it part of that lineage. So
right, completely different. Let's see. Other very, very exciting things. Daemon X Machina demo today. Fire Emblem. Are you guys Fire Emblem guys?
I'll play it when it comes out.
I've tapered off in later years. I just never got around to the 2 that they released a little while ago.
Right. Fates.
Fates. But this looks interesting. I'm kind of ambivalent about the 3D art style.
Really?
I think some of the animations look a little stilted, but they're getting better with every entry, I think.
Well, it's Intelligent Systems' first game on Switch?
I think.
Is that right?
Maybe.
Okay.
I believe so, yeah.
I'm trying to remember if they ever put out a Pushmo game on Switch early on, but I don't think they did.
No, I don't think they did either.
That series
they didn't
died
announce it being somebody had told me once that was Koei Tecmo working on it. I'm not sure. I'll have to check into that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe like a co-development or?
Koei development.
Like Yeah, co-developed with Intelligent Systems, but I'll have to actually look into it.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it looks great. The Fire Emblem fans seem excited.
Yeah, they're really diving more into the like, hey, you should have your party people socialize between missions, which sometimes I can get a little long. Like sometimes I just want to move on to the next mission. I thought the remake did a pretty good job of actually speeding up that pace.
Oh, for the remake of the second one?
Yeah. But they I'm sure people that's like half the reason people come to those games now. So yeah, they're obviously diving deep into that stuff.
It seems like it's focusing on the 3 houses, 3 different perspectives, all that stuff.
Yeah,
focusing on the school a fair amount.
Taking page at Pokemon Go's playbook, you know.
Right, exactly. July 26th, Fire Emblem 3 Houses is coming up. Okay, can we get to the full Monty here? The big crescendo. Yeah. They say, hey, we got one more thing. Fades to black, fades in. It's an ocean shot. It's like a lot like the trailer for Frozen 2, where it's like, all right, cool, ocean, got it. I'm into it. It's moody.
Anime.
I know immediately, like, okay, the art style is interesting. I'm intrigued. A lot of shots of the ocean, shot of a ship with an art style. At that point, genuine goosebumps on my MFing skin. Link's Awakening getting remade for the Switch. What's better than this? It's incredible. That art, just in that opening where it's like, oh my God, like unique art style for Zelda, that's great. Then they show gameplay, and it's an art style that we've never really seen from Nintendo. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of chibi, but better looking than chibi. It is a weird fusion.
It looks like some weird fusion of like diorama and like old sort of like wooden dolls or something. It's really weird, like the way his eyes specifically look like Mickey Mouse, like his older, his classic eyes or whatever.
And it would have been so easy for them. I assume this is the 3DS team. I don't know for sure. Imran, let me know if you know anything. But then also,
I believe it's the Link Between Worlds team.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it would have been relatively easy for them just to take the Link Between Worlds art style, since that game is so connected to Link's Awakening to begin with, and just to kind of make a better looking version of that. But I love that they shook things up so much. Like that art style, the presentation overall, just the idea that it's coming out on Switch. I love that they have kept that oddball game as an oddball. Like a game that should not exist to begin with is now coming out on Switch completely out of the blue, and it looks unlike anything we expected. It's just so beautiful.
I'm curious to see what they do with it, because from the trailer it definitely looked like here's all the encounters you remember, here's all the parts of Link's Awakening you remember, sort of like a Spiral-esque, like we just sort of reskin this entire thing and it looks gorgeous.
Right.
I'm wondering if they do anything to like the gameplay or if there's new dungeons, things like that, but like on its surface, like I'm excited to play this again.
Yeah, they'll probably have the DX dungeons in there, I'm sure, just for the weird color dungeons, which maybe those will be jarring of like, why do they care so much about the color in this one dungeon? Why is it?
I mean, that game was built around 2 buttons, so I'm kind of curious, like, do they change that up? Is it going to be like you will have access to everything at once?
Oh, that'd be amazing, because the biggest pain in the ass going back to that game is inventory management and just swapping out your items over and over again. So if they could kind of streamline that a fair amount, maybe smooth out some parts of the overworld, make it a little bit more open.
Maybe make it a little bit easier to like keep track of different quests a little bit.
Okay.
Because I know that game had like some side quests where you had to talk to specific people in a specific order, and so like some of that stuff maybe like nowadays might not play as well. So I think maybe they might, make it easier to keep track of that.
And actually, now that I think about it, make the story less interesting.
Yeah.
They should throw Zelda and Ganon in there. I think would make it better.
Make it fit into the chronology. It's not a dream anymore.
Right. Put the Ocarina of Time soundtrack in there instead.
Yeah, instead of like Mario being in there, just replace it with a Fire Emblem character.
Right. Is it too much to ask, Nintendo? It was amazing, though, and this is my favorite recurring theme in the game industry in particular. Maybe it's in other industries where we just don't look that much, but watching Twitter, right when that was announced, it was like, oh my God, second coming of Christ. I wish it was a Minish Cap. Like, people immediately are already complaining about this miraculous remake that Nintendo's making, because there's just so many other options. Like, it's great.
I'm surprised they went to Minish Cap of all games, because like I feel like people love Link's Awakening, and like I can see the heritage from it, but I still have like a softer spot in my heart for the Oracle games, because those are the games I played the most.
Yeah.
So I would have preferred an Oracle's things, but obviously they're obviously gonna make Link's Awakening, because that was like the first one of those games.
Right.
So I'm not like disappointed. I'm just saying personally, but like I'm glad they're doing this, because then if this does really well, maybe they'll remake the Oracle games. So, but I'm super excited for this. I want to play it.
I am so excited. I just played that game. Well, I have nostalgia, like Zelda nostalgia, only for Link's Awakening. It's the only one I played as a kid, but I didn't finish it until 2012. And we made this video, which is fun to look back at, where it's like Jeff Cork, old Dan Reichert, myself in Game Informer Studio before it was built out, just talking about Link's Awakening. And it's fun to go back and just think about that era. I was so excited the second that I beat it to just talk about it because it is such a bizarre game, and I love the development story so much. And I know that Kyle posted an interview with the game's director at a certain point, Tezuka, talking about just how it was made in the after hours at Nintendo. And the overall philosophy was like, yeah, we kind of felt like it was a parody of Zelda at the same time because it started out as a Link to the Past remake that then just became more and more bizarre. And that's why there are so many weird things. Like Kirby's in that game, Mario's in that game, there's the Yoshi doll. It's Zelda and Ganon aren't in there. It's just such a bizarre little game. And it's so awesome that now in 2019, of course, we all get to rant and rave about playing Link's Awakening again.
Right.
What would be a deal breaker for you that it's not in that game? Like it's in the original, but not in the remake.
Oh, if they took it out?
Yeah.
I think, I wonder how much, like with the localization, because I liked how bizarre it is, like talking to the little kids in the first town you go to, and they're like, I think one of them has a line which is, hold down or press the start button to check your menu. I don't know why I'm saying that. Like just those types of like weird anomalies where it's like, wow, just like breaking the fourth wall in the Zelda game. I would be bummed out if they smooth things out and made things less weird in the dialogue because there's some magic to just big blocky Game Boy text and how cryptic it can be. And I know that Tezuka even referenced that a lot of the tone of that game was inspired by Twin Peaks, which apparently Nintendo was watching at the time.
Yeah.
So
this will be inspired by Twin Peaks Season 3. It'll be way darker.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like a 5-minute shot of Link just standing in the field.
Yeah, there's the first 20 hours is just Link not knowing who he is and just kind of wandering around.
The windfish comes out, then it's just footage of an atomic bomb going off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I'm excited to see their version of the windfish with those graphics. Yeah. That dumbass gypsy whale, nothing better.
I think a lot of the bosses, like there was that one boss who was throwing the little spike thing around. Like he looked really cool. Like I like the style that they're going for with this. And even if like gameplay wise, it kind of looks like, hey, we just prettied up all these sort of very blocky sort of interface gameplay kind of thing. Yeah, which I'm a big fan of.
Oh my god!
If you can't ruin your reputation by stealing something, then I'm out.
Oh, that's right. Of course, and you're called Thief the rest of the game. God, that game is so weird and good. Other things that are weird and good, exciting. Dragon Quest XI S. Which is coming out in the fall on Nintendo Switch. I love that not only are they adding fully orchestrated music, because the music is one of the roughest spots of Dragon Quest XI, but then also the ability that's in the 3DS version, which is only in Japan, to shift to the 2D sprites. So you can make it look like a Super Nintendo Dragon Quest game, something like that. So they said, you can switch on the fly, which is interesting because in the 3DS version, at a certain point, you're locked out. And you have to choose one way or the other. So the fact that they called that out for the Switch version, I wonder if that means throughout the entire game you can switch back and forth now.
Graphics aside, like that looks like the definitive version of that game. Like there's more stuff in it.
Yeah, they said it was the definitive edition very clearly. I'm excited. Even though I spent a lot of time with that game, I loved it. I beat it. I saw that, and it's like the classic Switch effect. Like, yeah, maybe I do want to play that again.
Yeah, I haven't started the PS4 version, so I'm like, maybe I should just wait for this.
Oh, you should absolutely wait for that. That's super fun. Other stuff, let's see. Square announced Oninaki, a new RPG from the RPG Factory, the creators of I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere, coming out summer 2019.
That looks all right. I'm not ready to dismiss it out of hand. I think that'll be like a solid 7.75, let's say.
It's so tough.
Lost Sphere wasn't great.
I know. We're all rooting for that studio, and maybe the third time's the charm. Maybe they'll really knock it out of the park this time. Yeah. Let's see. Yoshi still looks great. He can wear a Nintendo Labo suit as like a costume that blocks damage. It's a weird world. Yeah. Also, one of those weird moments. Hellblade coming out for the Nintendo Switch. This hot now Microsoft product is coming out on the Nintendo Switch, ladies and gentlemen. That's insane. Imran, what do you make of that?
I think there's probably going to be more of those in the future.
Oh, more Microsoft games on Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
I wonder how many balls were in motion before the Microsoft purchase, though. Do you think they're already working on a Nintendo Switch version? It's like, well, it's stupid to waste that development effort. So go ahead, Ninja Theory.
And I mean, they already have Minecraft on there, so it's like, it's not, Microsoft's president to say like, oh, well, now we're going to cancel this since we bought you. Like, I feel like they're way cooler about that than maybe Sony might have been.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Phil Spencer has meetings with Nintendo as a third party. Like, they talk to third party relations. There's more to come, probably.
That's exciting. Disney Sum Sum Festival.
Sure.
Cute little stuff.
That game's out.
I know people who'll be very excited about that.
Yeah, it seems cute. I like the idea of holding your Switch vertical to play a little
new
little
Box
match
Pro game.
Yeah, Box Boy and Box Girl.
Yeah.
Co-op. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Again, Box Boy is one of those things. I've always wanted to play it. I never really have, but they do on my Switch. Sure.
Every time I see a trailer for the game, it looks cool, and I like that their big sort of like, end of the trailer twist was like, this guy is a rectangle. You can play as him now.
Mind's blown. Hey, if Nintendo's listening, thank you, Nintendo, for dropping a Nintendo Direct out of the blue and brightening up our Wednesdays, also brightening up this podcast, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
For now, do you guys want to clap out? We can get talking about some Harmonix stuff?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, goodbye. Matt Miller.
Yo.
Kyle Hilliard.
Whoa, Miller's
Someone's
coming in
feeling
hot.
musical.
Yo, what's up?
I'm
What's
so excited
Yes.
to talk about Harmonix's new game.
Oh my gosh, so cool.
Harmonix, Miller, I think it's fair to say, one of our favorite studios of all time. They have been...
So great.
I think it's also fair to say, ever since like Rock Band 3, I'd say ever since Rock Band 3, they've been in a weird spot in the industry.
I think that they've been experimenting a lot. That's
Yes,
for sure.
exactly.
And they it's interesting. I've had a lot of opportunities, as I did most recently here, to talk to Alex, who's one of the co-founders of Harmonix.
Friend of the show, he's on the
That
podcast.
guy from Broken Age?
He is in,
Yes.
yeah.
And it's remarkable how much that studio has remained consistent to their mission for the entire life of the studio. They have always been about this idea of bringing music to the masses, right? Like they want to find ways to bring the joy of music making to people, whether you know how to be a musician or not.
And they feel like they've accomplished that goal several times over, but it's like, one more time.
But they keep finding new ways to do that. And so I think there are projects that they have done in recent years that are maybe a little bit more off the beaten path, but they still maintain that focus on that mission. And if you look at it from a perspective of like, hey, what's the biggest project they could have done? Then you could find fault with Harmonix. But if you look at it from a perspective of like, here's a studio that the people who work there have a particular idea of what they want to do as a game studio, literally to be guided by their mission, then they are an unqualified success.
Yeah, for sure. I think
And this new project speaks to that.
and I want to get to that. I think it's worth just like looking at their track record for the last like 9 years, because I think it's just, it is bizarre. And you forget how experimental they've been.
Yeah.
But obviously, Rock Band 3, Dance Central 1, 2, and 3. Okay, there we go. Even Dance Central Spotlight, that counts. Vid Rhythm on iOS.
Yeah.
If you guys remember that weird thing.
Strange game.
Where like remix your voice into like these musical patterns. It's very bizarre. Rock Band Blitz, which was bizarre in a pre-Amplitude sequel world. It was like, well, it'll do.
It's kind of Amplitude,
Man,
but
I
not.
forgot about that. Yeah.
Record Run, which I believe John Drake was the project lead on that one. That was iOS, little like a temple run type of thing.
Platformer, right?
Yeah. City Never Sleep, or a City Sleeps. I'm sorry.
That was an unusual game.
That was the way Brian Vore reviewed it. It was like the arcade shooter. I think it was just on Steam. It's like a twin stick, music heavy, bizarre shooter that Brian Vore loved. Fantasia, obviously one of the craziest games to ever be released. Rock Band 4, that was its own anomaly.
Can we take a step back, by the way, and say
Yes.
Fantasia is an awesome game. One of the few awesome games for the Kinect. If you own a Kinect and you don't have Fantasia, go find it for the $5 you'll have to spend to get it.
You know what the other 4 awesome games for the Kinect are? Dance Central 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's true. Also, Beat Sports they released. Also, Super Beat Sports on Switch, which is a weird like little minigame collection. Beat Nix on mobile. That was like a weird like musical Tamagotchi. Rock Band Rivals was kind of the re-release of Rock Band 4 in a funky way. Rock Band VR, Sing Space, Drop Mix, friend of the show, and Twitch Sings is one of their most recent projects.
Drop Mix isn't even like a real video game. It's like almost more of a tabletop game than it is a video game, but really cool.
But this has all led to their new game with a very seductively simple name, which is
Audica.
Audica, A-U-D-I-C-A.
Yes.
And we have the exclusive reveal of this, Miller?
We did. Yeah, Harmonix reached out to us and they wanted to talk to us about the game and let us play it, let us talk to Alex, who is acting, by the way, as creative director on this project. He's not just like Harmonix spokesperson. He's in the lead on this particular project.
It's always exciting when like, the head of a studio comes back in like, I'm going to direct this one, actually.
Totally. I think the recent changes that of how they organize things at Harmonix have given him the flexibility to step back into a role where he's more involved in development directly, which is awesome. I'll tell you this about Audica. Okay, well, first of all, if nobody's seen it yet, or if people have not seen it yet, it's a VR music shooter.
Yes.
It's like a hybrid. So shoot targets, but there's music involved.
Got it.
Playing it, for me, was very reminiscent of the first time I played Guitar Hero. Because...
Okay. Go on.
Because when I first played that game, I remember, not unlike the situation with Audica, Harmonix brought us Guitar Hero long before they went public with it. We were one of the first places that actually wrote a preview about it.
Yeah.
And they'd shown up at our office with this silly-looking little toy guitar with red plastic buttons on it. And we're like, hey, this is the new game we're doing. And I think, I had been a fan of Amplitude and
the better game frequency.
The game you think is better. Uh-huh. And I was like, oh, sweet, Harmonix is doing a new game. And at first glance, like most people, I saw Guitar Hero and was like, seriously, a little toy guitar?
It was a little rude of you to smash the guitar.
It was, maybe. But I remember playing it and in just a few minutes of play, you were like, oh man, this is amazing. And how has this not been made?
Right.
Likewise, the first few minutes for me playing Audica had that same quality where I was, you're kind of dual wielding these energy pistols in a futuristic environment and shooting these targets that are coming at you in what I think is being kind of almost like reverse skeet shooting. Like there's targets that are coming in at you rather than going away from you.
The original name was Skeet Beats.
I have a very maybe quick way to define it. To me, it's like Elite Beat Agents VR. Because you have the circles closing in, it's about target practice, and you even have the ones where you drag along the side. It's like playing...
That's interesting. It's not so much closing in here as it is they're flying and off the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, I had a different way of looking at it, which is like, oh, this is Beat Saber, but instead of lightsabers, you have guns.
I think it certainly has a lot of similarities to Audio Shield and Beat Saber. I mean, the actual just appearance of the arena space that you're in being this sort of like darkened futuristic space and the things that are coming flying at you. But I would argue, much as I like both of those games, I think that what Harmonix is trying to do here has the potential to be a little bit more sophisticated and complicated. And I don't know if that's going to make it more popular or not, but it just has a lot of depth to it because you're combining a lot of different things that you're having to learn.
Yeah.
And like Rock Band, you start out and you play on the easy settings and it's like, oh, okay, I get this. I'm going to shoot here and I'm going to shoot there and then I'm going to drag here. And over time, as it layers on the different difficulty settings, it gets way deep, way complicated. It really requires, like Rock Band and Guitar Hero before it, requires you drop into that kind of like trance-like state where your eyes are kind of unfocused and you're just kind of like going with the flow.
I walked by the VR room and you were certainly in some kind of state in there, Mel.
I know.
I'm still not over how dorky people look when I walk by that room and glance
so
in there.
terrible.
But I'm totally with you. At first, like playing on easy, it's like, okay, you shoot the things, got it. It like recommends strongly that you keep a stiff arm and like look down the gun, and that's totally necessary because accuracy gives you higher points and stuff like that. But then when you get used to those basics, where it becomes really fun is when it becomes so much more active and you're moving in different ways. Like you're holding one line and the gun basically becomes, the gun from Ghostbusters. It's like zzz, as it's like going across the environment. Meanwhile, like a new target's opening up on the other side of the field. So as you're holding this gun down and it's going zzz, and there's sparks flying everywhere, then you have to aim with this hand real quick and then shoot that as then just in the nick of time, you're bashing this little circle that's coming towards you. As I think you wrote in your preview, it's like the choreography. Once you start to feel the flow of even the choreography, it really pops, I think.
Yeah, the comparison or the like meeting point I talked about in my preview is like it's like half a game about being a like pulp sci-fi ray gun shooter and half a game about being like a dude on ecstasy at a rave.
Right.
Like
everybody's pitch.
It somehow manages to get the meeting point between those two. And it's hard. Like it's hard to get good at it. The higher difficulty settings will be impenetrable for a while for a lot of people. It's also very physical. I mean, I think you'll get tired playing this game, especially on the higher difficulty settings, both physically and mentally, because there's like a lot coming at you.
Emotionally,
spiritually, maybe.
Did you like playing it, Kyle?
Yeah, I did. It's almost I was talking to Miller about it a little beforehand. Like, My favorite rhythm games actually simplify things a lot.
Yeah.
Like I might like Rhythm Heaven. Like I love that it's just one input generally, and then even Beat Saber is like very simple. So I'm a little turned off by the amount of because you got to go hold gun sideways, you got right side up, you got hold down, you've got the disco balls coming at you that you have to smash. But it is so satisfying to just hit the targets like with the music, and that's like I actually hope there's a mode in the future that just keeps it to firing on targets, even if there are more targets on screen. It would just let you focus a little more on the music and rather than like how you need to angle your hands and stuff like that. But yeah, like it feels really good, especially for those that League of Legends KDA song is one of the ones that
League of Legends.
Yeah, there's that League of Legends music video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that I think the band's called KDA.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, right, Hanson?
Yeah, I think it sounds familiar. Actually,
it's got like 400 million views.
I think we talked
YouTube.
about it on the podcast before. Yeah.
Like that song is really good because it's a lot of like bang 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 bang. Like that's how the rhythm goes. It pops like that, like in consecutive like quarter notes, and like to shoot targets in rhythm with that song feels really good. Like I like that a lot.
Some songs really pop. I love that it's mainly like a techno focus. I think it's Harmonix at their best. But the song Goldust by DJ Fresh was my favorite out of that batch, where it does just feel more active. That's where I felt like it's clicked over now.
Does that have like the high score sound effects? Is that?
I know the one you're talking about.
That's I like that
cool
one a lot too.
It is basically an all electronic soundtrack. Harmonix. I mean, this is the other thing about Harmonix is that like a lot of those guys are musicians before they were game developers, and they're great game developers, but they bring an understanding and appreciation to music that has always opened my eyes to new tunes in every game that I've ever played from them.
Yeah, I know you are humming Freeze Pop songs throughout the office so often.
Honestly, I fell in love with Freeze Pop because of playing it in Harmonix.
Look,
games,
everyone loves Freeze Pop. I'm surprised actually there's no Freeze Pop songs in here. At least one.
It's an outrage.
That'd be amazing if they put a Freeze Pop song in. I don't know are they still making new stuff? I'm not
sure. That's a great question.
I mean, we're all the biggest Freeze Pop fans in the world. I don't know why we're not following this group.
But I will say that like doing that before in Rock Band and Guitar Hero and other games, they are bringing in artists that are very high profile in the electronic music scene, but they're also bringing in folks who they know are really good because they know music really well, and sort of I think introducing those high talent people to the world. At least that's the way they describe their approach. And then there's going to be a few sort of what they call friends and family Harmonix stuff on there.
Right.
Which is kind of how the Freeze Pop stuff started.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're connected to the studio. So it's launching early access on Oculus Store March 7th. Is that the date? Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly it's going to be available to play on the Vive or the Rift in early access on March 7th. They've told me that it's going to come out in 2019 in full. But the early access version, I think they've said is going to be $20. It's out on March 7th. You can play 10 songs in that build. And of course, those 10 songs have the multiple difficulty settings, so you can really start to dig into the meat of how to play.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a very solid release, and something that if you have one of those VR headsets should definitely be on your radar.
I'm sure they'll be bringing it to PSVR at some point.
It is a testament to stripping out any of the music stuff, the reality of it being like such a skill-based game that is going to require a lot of practice and a lot of energy to get good at, like some of Harmonix's previous music games. That's relatively novel still within the VR space. A lot of VR stuff is it's like easy, right? It's like it doesn't take a lot of skill to get good at a lot of the VR games that are out on the market. Not to say anything bad about them per se, it's just that they're they're trying to skew towards just ease of accessibility. And
I mean it's telling that Steam updated its VR platform recently because people were playing Beat Saber better than they thought humans had the capability to do so.
Right.
They're moving faster than they thought people were able to, so they had to update. They had to update it so that like it could keep up with human capabilities.
And I think there's a hunger for that, right? Like for the people who have embraced VR, which is still admittedly a growing market. There's not as big of a market there as maybe the platform holders had hoped there would be at this point, but it is growing, and I think there are people who are ready for like, hey, I want to have like a real challenging game here, and this is that. It's a deep, involved game.
I like learning about development, and the most interesting thing about the game from your preview was the idea that it was someone else's idea that Harmonix then collaborated with and then brought them internal?
It's a little to offer some clarification there. We didn't have a lot of space to go into a lot of detail there, but basically there was a person on staff at Harmonix.
Oh, I see.
Who was working as an independent developer simultaneously on their own project, even as Alex was returning to some of the concepts that he had been enthusiastic about in Chroma.
Right.
Way back in like 2013 and 2014.
From the developers of Counter-Strike Go, which is very crazy.
Quickly, Chroma is the rhythm shooter.
It was like an arena-based rhythm shooter.
Right.
Okay.
That
they pulled back on after a beta, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. If that, I mean, maybe it didn't. I'm not even sure if it went past alpha, but people did play it. I think, played it, right? And so it was out there, but by Alex's own admission, it felt like it got a little bit away from the core joy that he was going for in a music shooter.
But it's like, there's something about music guns. Something about music guns I
no,
gotta get back to.
Like, that's exactly the way he talked about it. And I think he kept musing about it, and he realized that he wanted it to be a pure experience of like, yes, I'm shooting, but he also said, like, I don't really like real guns and violence, and he's not interested in doing that in his games. So he made a game that was like, okay, well, it's these futuristic laser pistols that you're shooting targets with. So you get the joy of what you described, Kyle, that sense of like pulling the trigger and hitting the target. But it's not about like killing dudes.
It's about killing songs.
Crushing them. And from there, it was sort of evolving towards something. And then he had this other guy on staff. I think his name is Ryan Chalinor. Apologies, I'm sure I'm getting the pronunciation wrong. But he was also at Harmonix, working on kind of a guns and music thing.
Gotcha.
They brought all that effort together, and now we get this game, Audica.
You know what's the most confusing thing about Harmonix, other than their last 10 years, is trying to wrap my mind around why they never made a PlayStation VR version of Amplitude. They have a game that would be great in VR. The studio that has spent the last 5 years or so like focused on VR.
Yeah.
It's a PlayStation exclusive. Sony's hungry for VR games.
Right.
How does that not...
You know what happened? Someone over there played Thumper, and they just went, damn it!
No. Damn it, our game is so much better. Oh, really?
Yeah, we don't need to get into all this.
Wow,
I like Thumper a lot.
interesting. Anyways, Audica.
I love all
It
games.
might come to PSVR, by the way. This might.
Oh, I'd hope so. Yeah,
They are shooting for it, but the only thing they have announced is that it'll be on HTC Vive and on Oculus Rift. They want to do Oculus Quest, the upcoming like standalone thing, and PSVR if they can make that happen.
Gotcha. Audica, very exciting. Harmonix, way to go.
Way to go.
We love
the
it.
Capcom round of applause.
Absolutely. Okay, emails, everybody. Ready for them?
Sure.
Here they are.
Good.
And welcome back to the New Informer Show. We got a hot crew here for emails. Jeff Cork.
Hi.
Surreal Vasquez.
Hello.
Out of the shadows. Then we have Imran Khan.
Howdy.
Welcome. We cannot have a Game Informer Show without somebody Skyping in repeatedly. Imran, I'm happy it's you right now. There was a quick clarification for earlier in the show.
Uh-oh.
There's
What did I blow?
a gigantic oversight. Jeff Margiafava sent me a text afterwards saying, oh crap, we didn't talk about microtransactions in Far Cry New Dawn. Here's what he says. He says, Cork can probably add to this too, but basically all the different crafting systems in Far Cry New Dawn we talked about have microtransaction options now. The microtransaction store is front and center in the crafting menu, and anything you need you can buy. Component packs if you need more crafting materials, or you can just buy the best weapons and vehicles with Far Cry coins. Or buy skill points to unlock perks. You're not forced to do these things, but if you want to unlock and experiment with a bunch of different guns, you run out of components quickly and have to do more missions to get crafting materials, or just buy them. It is worse than previous entries and seems to be following Ubisoft's overall course. Again, not a huge deal, but it feels really gross when you're a few points or components short and the game gives you a nudge and says, hey, want to just buy this crap instead? That seems bad.
Yuck.
I don't like that I didn't see that in the demo, which means that it wasn't in the preview build.
Microtransactions, it's funny how they have a habit of turning that on late in the game.
They seem to forget about all their store stuff during the previews.
Yeah, we're not talking about that right now, but I think,
Fans will be happy.
it's going to be great.
Yeah.
We're going to make a lot of money.
Podcast@GameInformer.com. People sent in wonderful emails to that email address with different topics they want us to cover about. If there's ever something in the game industry that pops up and you think, God, I want to hear what the Game Informer show crew has to say about this, realistically, probably Suriel or Kyle, send it into podcast@gameoformer.com. We have a bunch of our favorite emails. We're going to choose our absolute favorite and then put a pin in the big board to honor where that person's from. Ready?
Yes.
Podcast@gameoformer.com. Lucas Adams from San Marcos, Texas says, hey, crew, Assassin's Creed 3 has been announced to re-release this spring, and much like the original release, reactions seem pretty mixed to the news. I find this interesting because critically the game was well received, sitting at an average of 85 on Metacritic. Then I realized, for some reason, over the past decade in gaming, third entries in beloved series have become a huge target for gaming culture, even if the game is critically acclaimed or well received. A few examples: Uncharted 3, Dead Space 3, Mass Effect 3, Dead Space 3, Bioshock Infinite, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Max Payne 3, Fable 3. Is a third installment a recipe for fan backlash in modern games despite critical approval, or am I just crazy?
I like that he put modern games, because I immediately thought Super Mario Brothers 3. But
yeah, shut up, Lucas. No.
Sit down.
No, it's a weird trend. I mean, you can call out probably great examples of the third games.
Metal Gear Solid 3.
Hey, there we go. All right, that's a great example. What is it
Far
about
Cry
it?
3?
Is it just, great one too. Is it just that the community is so built up by the third entry that they have so many expectations that that's where it'll come crumbling down?
I blame Assassin's Creed for, didn't they initially launch, like they were saying, this is going to be a trilogy of stories?
I don't know if they framed it exactly that way, but
it
I
was
think
pretty clear that there's a larger story, and then maybe they may or may not have had it all planned out or wrapped it up succinctly, so that I think everyone kind of took a cue from that for a while.
Right, and it seems like Brotherhood would technically be 3 if he's following his own logic too. But anyways, I
think there's also like an overall arc of like the first one sort of has new ideas, but it's kind of like rickety around the edges, and then the second one is like, okay, we fixed all the problems, and then the third one's like, all right, well, what's this one do that the other ones already haven't done? So it's like the novelty of either the idea or the improvements has kind of worn off.
Or mini games, maybe it's like Crash 3 or Spyro 3, where Crash 3 went off the rails in a good way. I feel like Spyro 3 went off the rails in a bad way, but it is that thing too of like, well, now it's time to just try new mechanics, get experimental, throw tower defense in there or whatever.
Crackdown 3.
Also, like by the third game, a lot of people have left. Like Assassin's Creed 3 didn't have Patrice Désilets. Like Mass Effect 3 did not have a lot of the people behind Mass Effect 1 there. Yeah. There's not always the same continuation of story there.
Uncharted 3, Bruce and Neil weren't working on that one over at Naughty Dog. Yeah, that's a good point. Certainly the fourth is where it becomes a disaster. And I remember
Resident Evil.
But I remember one of my favorite rapid fire questions was on the Mass Effect Andromeda cover story trip. We asked the creative director, like, what's the best fourth thing? Because there's one of the things of like, Mass Effect Andromeda, come on, this isn't going to end well. And his answer was the fourth quad, which was a joke that apparently Krogans have 4 testicles. Which, learn something new every day. Wait, you say that with a lot of confidence over there.
There was a plot point, part of the thing with the genophage.
Oh, really? I don't remember the testicle part in particular, but hey, teach their own. David Pender, he writes in and says, hey, what's the deal with rocket launchers in games? Why do developers love giving enemies rocket launchers and shooting the hero with no concern for how many of their allies are near them? Spider-Man, Mercenaries 2, Just Cause 3, even Resident Evil 4, just some of the games that come to mind. The liberal use of rocket launchers have always bugged me.
It's a classic thing for bad guys to shoot, because in video games, a rocket launcher starts off slow and then accelerates. If you think of like enemies in the Contra days and like a lot of side-scrolling action games, like Russian Attack and stuff. It was just a way to telegraph that something bad is coming, right?
And you can see the thing that's coming towards you as well. There's a trail of smoke. It could not make it more clear.
I'm assuming a rocket launcher in real life is a little faster.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And it probably doesn't have like the clear trail of smoke either, like the Slayer does in Perfect Dark or something like that.
That is a good question, though, because they always do seem to have no regard for anyone they're around. It's just like pop out from behind the crate and just let it fly.
Right.
Yeah. Repeat.
You're probably more effective with a bow and arrow just trying to take down one protagonist of a video game than just jumping out from 4 feet away and just launching a rocket.
Although, in their defense, most of the time, by the time you're seeing the guys with the rocket launchers, it's very clear that not one person is going to be able to take out this
You're
guy.
right. You're right.
It's like we're bringing out literally the big gun.
Yeah. I love the idea of enemies preparing for the protagonist to come around to their section. Like, all right, I know he's taking out hundreds of thousands of our men, but we're gonna take him.
It's gonna be us.
Yeah,
guys.
and that I love in the original Paper Mario. You get to hear that conversation between two like Koopa Troopas, where you get to it just cuts to them before Mario shows up, and it's like, this is it. Mario's coming our way. Like, we're gonna finally get him. I just love that little insight. And then they whipped out a rocket launcher. It was weird. Zane from Bluff City, Tennessee says, hello, editors. Since we're all basically awful human beings, don't deny it. Do you think you're an awful human being, Surreal?
I guess. He says that we are. So
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and deny it.
For people in the office, Cork, who do you think is on the very light end of the spectrum for awful human being?
Like you'd say,
who's
like
the least awful?
A least awful
Yeah,
person?
least awful.
Who's the least awful?
The least awful?
Different in your hand. There's two I have in mind.
I think Kyle is probably
Not
up
the one I was
there.
thinking of, but
No?
no, he's good.
Kyle.
Over Miller.
Oh, I think Miller is a schemer from way back.
Really? Little stinker.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
He's got his fingers everywhere.
Yeah, plus the way he talks off mic versus on mic. Woo
Yeah,
wee.
this character, he's really in it for the long haul, isn't he? A
Hermione.
nice lore
doing this whole
master.
bit.
Right. You don't think Surreal's nicer than Kyle?
No.
All right. Anyways, so Zane
This is an
says-
HR meeting waiting to happen.
yeah. Says, hey, since we're all basically awful human beings, what game would you enjoy seeing another editor play to completion because of how much you know they'd hate it? P.S. You should all be at least a little ashamed of your answers. If not, you might be Jeffem. That's true. The most dastardly in the office. I think back of this one replay we did years ago. And Dan Tack, I think, played it on that replay, but it was a PlayStation 1 game published by Atlas called Eggs of Steel. And Dan Tack was playing it, and it was like a lot of dumb jokes, like every replay of like, we got to super replay this, we got to super replay this. And Dan Tack was very much like, yeah, we got to do it. On Easter, we got to do it. And I'd probably pay $40 to force Dan Tack to play through all of the Eggs of Steel, because it is abysmal. Do you guys ever fantasize about just... I guess you do it a little bit for reviews, and I don't really rate reviews. I don't have that as much. But just the idea of like, what if I just had to sit down and play this entire game?
I was thinking that
In
when
one
we were
sitting?
doing the Jump Force
No.
new gameplay today. I was like, if I was assigned this,
Yeah.
that would be an almost impossible task, which is why we have Joe Juba, like
To dole out the reviews.
kind of our air traffic controller.
Right. Anthony writes in and says, hey, GI Show, did any of you go to Flash game website called Original, also called Fairy Halim? Back in the early to mid-2000s. My cousin showed it to me in the GameCube era, and it had a ton of stylish games that remind me a lot of the Switch's current indie library. Are there any Flash games you played a ton before digital game stores became a thing? Thank you.
I played a lot of like PopCap stuff.
Oh, okay. Like early Bejeweled. as
Early
was
Bejeweled
Flash.
and Dynamite.
What
It
is
was like Bust a Move.
what's going on with PopCap these days? They're making Garden Warfare, but I thought they were like co-developing that originally with Black Box, weren't they?
I don't know.
They announced a new one, a new Plants vs. Zombies.
Well, they said, hey, we're working on something, but we don't know exactly what the name is or anything yet. But yeah.
I want to say they straight up called it Plants vs. Zombies, but I don't know if that like means a new Garden Warfare or just a straight up new
That's
game.
what it is. It's the ambiguity of, yeah, exactly what it is. But it's such a weird conversion for PopCap to just suddenly be a Garden Warfare studio. Like, that's a huge transition. And
Yeah.
there's probably a story in there that somebody that works at a video game outlet should try and get someday. It's a weird one. Anyways, Flash games, not so much. I was big into like freeware. Like that was like early good gaming for me. It was right when I got online. It was like, okay, well, I can just download games. And so I forget what the site was called. Like it's probably freegames.com or something /XXX. But it was just malware city. But I used to play all these old games. It's like Lero, which was kind of like a real-time Worms. That was super fun. We did it for Super Replay Showdown. Or like Kung Fu Kim was an old game I used to love a lot that I tried downloading for replay, and it just... it destroyed our computer.
I was gonna say, how many of your gaming sessions were interrupted by a scary skull and then like maniacal laughing?
the end of Independence Day.
You have your bank account.
I didn't know what to do. It was just, that was just PC gaming, baby.
I didn't have like a consistent game that I went back to, but there was definitely like a year where I had like a class in the computer lab where me and like two other guys were constantly like on a hunt to find the next free game site that wasn't blocked by our school.
Ooh, that's fun.
Blocker, because every week there'd be like, nope, we were using this site too much and now it's been blocked. We got to move on to the next one with like 8, breakout clones and like Angry Birds, like knockoffs that we'd play. And then that's
why you use the Ask Jeeves workaround. Where as long as you put the URL in Ask Jeeves, the school blocker doesn't find it.
I think we did do that for a little while, and they just straight up banned Ask Jeeves.
Jeeves, you dirty dog. Michael from Warren, Ohio says, hello, crew, or Andy, or whatever. Cork, I'm hoping you can help with this, because I'm also confused by it, and I've worked here for like over 8 years. Why do magazines publish with a date that's a month ahead? I've read that it started so that rivals would appear to have a leg up on one another, but what's stopping someone from publishing 2 months ahead, or maybe 3, or a year? Where will it stop? When that happens, the effort to be ahead of the competition will lead to complete chaos and possibly the apocalypse. Why is it that we're always working on an issue of the magazine that does not line up with the actual date when it launches?
I think it's to like somewhat artificially make it seem a little more timely. So it's like not an expiration date necessarily, because it's not like it's going to go sour like a gallon of milk or something. But
right,
it sounds like, hey, it hits in March 15th. The issue hits, and it's the March issue. 15 days later.
Yeah. So like right now, we're just kind of wrapping up the April issue,
correct,
which launches in early March,
yes,
but also has, because it's the April issue, Game and Farcer, which is like the big jokey section because April Fool's Day. That chronology just gets to be a complete disaster. So that's probably it.
That's why it's very difficult to think of like spooky ideas when it's July, for our Halloween themed issue. All these skeletons. It's like you're sweating your bees off. Meanwhile,
your quads.
Matt writes in and says, Ben, the storytelling in Kingdom Hearts 3 is so bad. The dialogue is stilted and awkward, and the silent expressions from characters turns the stuff in between the combat into a real slog. This is my first Kingdom Hearts, and I'm enjoying the gameplay, but I'm just starting to skip the cutscenes. You would think Disney would have cried foul with some of these things. Have I been spoiled by Red Dead, or is this storytelling just antiquated?
It's way better than it used to be.
Okay, that's not saying much. Now, look, I'm not a Kingdom Hearts guy. I understand this is insane to critique the story of Kingdom Hearts 3, having jumped right into Kingdom Hearts 3, but I started playing that this week. I think it's embarrassing. And it's not even like big picture stuff. It is like pacing issues, second to second, joke to joke. It is uncomfortable to watch. Just like James Woods rattling off this line as Hades, long pause. Goofy has, I guess, a joke. Pause. Donald has some retort that's ambiguous.
Have you encountered anything involving the genie?
No, not yet.
Because those, at least in the previous Kingdom Hearts games, are awful. Just because they accentuate the terrible pacing and everything. It's just like someone doing a cut rate genie impersonation. First of all,
Dan Castellaneta, give him his due.
Okay, Dan Castellaneta doing a third rate genie impersonation. And it is just... It's embarrassing, too, because the animation doesn't really keep up with...
Nothing can keep up with that.
The razzmatazz, here we go. And then...
My favorite aspect of old Kingdom Hearts cutscenes were, like, they used to do, like, these dramatic, like, recreations of the movies, but they wouldn't have music on them. So it'd just be, like, entirely silent cutscene from, like, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Are you
that
serious?
Made no sense, and it felt awful to watch.
Yeah.
I understand a lot of people like that game a lot. I understand there's a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans that listen, but I'll go further. Also, starting Kingdom Hearts 3, I was horrified by just like the basic Sora character animation and movement. Like trying to run back and forth as Sora, or even like his jumping animation. It's like some of the worst I've seen this generation. It is just the most stilted. It feels like a PS1 character. It feels like garbage. Am I crazy?
Again, better than it used to be.
Okay, all right. I think you are all drinking the Kool-Aid there, but hey, it's a hell of a game.
I started playing Kingdom Hearts 3.
I want you to start
finish too.
Please. It's a wild ride. I'm sticking with it. Chris from Fairborn, Ohio says, hello, GI crew. Although this was several weeks ago, I wanted to get all of your opinions on the Wii Shop channel and Machinima shutting down within days of each other. I grew up with these two platforms and am slightly bothered that there was only so much I could do to preserve the games I played and the videos I watched tirelessly. That is weird. Imran, are you a big Machinima guy?
I watched a couple of things on it, yeah.
Yeah. It's sad that it shut down. And what's the saga? Like, the videos are just gone?
They were taken down, like, all of the videos on that channel, the wider Machinima channel, which manages a ton of different other channels, basically, and series. And, they would, buy up YouTube creators, basically, and have them put their stuff on their channel. All those videos were basically made private. about a month ago.
Okay.
And then 2 weeks later, they announced that they were shutting down and laying off like 81 employees. So like all that stuff went away super quick, and then a lot of creators kind of went out and said like this was a surprise to us as well.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So.
And Wii Shop, it's sad that's just gone forever. There's some exclusives on there that it's like, well, hope you downloaded it while you could.
Yeah.
Quick to point out, like
those
two things are not related.
Castlevania games on there.
Yeah. Did anybody play those Castlevania Wii Shop games?
I did. They were good. I mean, it was like a new Contra game that no one will ever play again.
Yeah. God, you know what? We're really dumb. Before it shut down, we should have just had a Wii in the office to download those for like replays in the future. We really blew it, and now it's like too late. Maybe some Wiis in the office still have them downloaded, technically.
I mean, you can still download stuff if you've bought it before.
Right,
but
that's the catch.
You can't buy anything ever again. Even if you have points on there, the actual buying mechanism is down.
Right. And obviously the travesty, which is sad that so many great developers work so hard on all those games that are, inaccessible at this point, but losing that music. It's sad that they stripped it from the internet too, and so we can never hear the Wii Shop channel music again.
Can't even hum it in public anymore.
No, you will be beaten. This is dumb. I'm sure you guys saw this, but like when everybody was talking about the closing of the Wii Shop and just kind of talking about the music and how good that theme was, a lot of people were sharing that clip from Nirvana, the band, the show. If you guys watched that, have you seen this, Cork? They had just like a little video, I think it's an entire episode, I forget, that's just about the Wii Shop. I'm going to go play it because, Cork, I need you to hear it because I'm in love with this.
Okay.
Fill the air real quick.
So, Serial.
Yeah.
I would like to clarify when I said that Kyle was nicer than you, it's because he's being nice for two.
Oh, I see.
Daughter.
That's true.
So.
He's got that double niceness.
Exactly. Even though he did film her failing at ice skating, her body as it lay prone and bleeding on the ground. He took photos.
That's maybe.
May not have been bleeding either.
In fairness, Serial would have done the same thing.
Absolutely, exactly for insurance.
I also would have had a daughter. Yeah.
Seems like something right up your alley.
He just goes around filming other people's daughters falling on ice.
They don't like this. No. I'm learning.
See, when they do it, it's cute or whatever. But when I'm out there with a recorder, they don't want me around.
Hey, Game Informer Show, this is really cute. You ready for some jams?
Yes, sir.
Right, this is a clip from Nirvana, the band, the show.
Games. Oh, I like it. Because everybody knows about the Wii Shopping channel, and everybody loves to shop on it every Wednesday. So what we'll do is we'll write a theme song for the Wii Shopping channel. Watch this. You can sing to the titles of the... Super Mario RPG, Super Mario 3, Mega Man, Neo Turf Masters, Breakin' Star. You know what I mean, Jared?
Yeah.
Like every start, you say the lyrics of the. Let me try.
Super Mario RPG, Sonic the Hedgehog, Donkey Kong 3, Adventures of Lolo 1 and 2, King's Knight, Dig Dug, Juman Fu, Harvest Moon.
You write this song?
Link Puzzle Pokemon, Toe Jam and Earl and Panic on Funkotron. Castlevania, Fatal Fury, Ninja Chuchu, Mario Comet, Razor Blazing, Lasers, Basis Loaded, Mega Turrican, Cybernator, Rolling Thunder, Dynastic Hero, Bubble Bobble, Double Dragon F-Zero.
I get it, you memorized the song.
Zero X, and Donkey Kong Jr. Math, Ninja Gaiden 1, Ninja Gaiden 2, Ninja Gaiden 3. Cruising USA.
All right, that's it. Okay, you can stop it in there, Hunter. Thank you. Anyways, also,
that was fun.
Hunter the intern, thank you for switching in the booth. So on the soundboard, there's one farthest to the right that's lit up. Slide that one down. Great, got it. Grant from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, that is, says, hey there, everybody. Is PUBG a horror game? No, but it's one of those terrifying games at times. If not, what would a horror battle royale look like? Could you make a battle royale? I mean, they have kind of like, some smaller case things like multiplayer games, but
I feel like that premise expands pretty well into a battle royale where there's maybe like team of like however many killers against 40 survivors, and the idea would be that instead of a closing circle, maybe that could be part of it as well, but there would be a time limit where if the killers don't kill all the survivors, maybe it's like 5 killers versus 40 survivors or something.
No, the closing circle is the one Demon from Hellraiser that goes like this. Just a whole bunch of them, though.
Okay.
Getting closer and closer to each other.
You want some good, freaky, hellish stuff.
Or maybe they just turn it on like where there aren't any killer players, but the idea is that as a player, you're trying to sort of trick people into falling for, to be lured in by the other killer. So if you see a killer, you're like, hey, go that way. And then you're trying to have them go towards the path that they.
So you get points if you get your friends.
No,
killed?
you just want to be the person who survives. So if you can get other people to aggro the monsters, that they would be chased by them instead.
It could
or
be
everyone
done.
wears a mic and first person to scream loses.
Oh, that's fun. Little what's that Rockstar game? Manhunt. Yeah. Where I could detect you if you chose to wear a mic and then made noises, which is such a dumb thing. Please inconvenience yourself. It reminds me like in Ready Player One. It's so dumb. Where he gets like the full body suit and then he gets like beat up and he's like, oh, I can feel it. It's like, yeah, just don't wear that suit then, you idiot.
Yeah.
Anyways, Adam Mishler from Raleigh, North Carolina says, hello, crew. I'm just sending a question about Apex Legends and the success it's had in the past 2 weeks. It obviously didn't need a year-long announcement or even a 3-year announcement as some games have shown. As was just announced, it arrived the same day and it succeeded. Should more games take this approach? Would this give more games more of a window... Would this give more games more of a window to finish the game and lessen the pressure of releasing an unfinished game like Fallout 76 or possibly Anthem? I see. So if it's just in darkness and hidden the entire time, then they could have released Fallout 76 in 2087 when it was ready. Yeah.
I think in the specific case of Apex Legends, I think they decided to go with the surprise release because I think I remember them mentioning it that like if they had an ad campaign, I think all it could have done was harm them. Where it's like, free-to-play game with microtransactions from EA wasn't going to really do well
Yeah,
for
we
them.
talked about it in last week's episode. Yeah, no, that's totally true. It's super smart of them. It's rare to pull this off. What do you think it takes? Imran, you're smart. Is it just the free-to-play aspect lends itself well to dropping day of?
I mean, it's a known quantity in that, like, it's EA and it's Respawn. So they could just, like, they knew they had a quality game that they could throw out there that doesn't necessarily need a lot of testing or, like, public beta aspect of it. So as long as you know the game is good and you have the money and resources behind being able to release it that way, it's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah. Would it have killed them to have a Game Informer cover, though?
I don't think it would have killed.
It wouldn't have killed them. Okay.
But I think also there's a lot of because sort of the people you would want to sort of have these surprises release are companies that you're already expecting something out of. So like, let's say if Sekiro wasn't announced until like March, everyone would still be like, we want Bloodborne 2 or whatever, like until that game came out, and then all that game would only be compared to Bloodborne during its first releases of like, this isn't Bloodborne 2, this is what we got instead.
Yeah.
So I think it also helps Respawn that they were already working. Everyone was sort of assumed that, okay, all they're working on is the Star Wars game. And they're like, okay, we're also working on this other thing. So it would have to be a situation like that where it's like, we're working on the thing you're expecting us to work, but we also have this surprise thing ready to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are always, well, at some point, it's been a while since this studio has released a game, so, it's time for them to make another one.
Yeah. Imran, how crazy is it, the success of Apex Legends so far? Put things in perspective for us.
25 million is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. Like, PUBG is obviously a game for sale, so obviously it's not a great comparison.
Yeah.
But it took that game about a year to do that. It's like it doesn't make sense for Battle Royales to not launch free-to-play anymore.
Yeah.
Because with the success of Fortnite and Apex Legends, like, they kind of run circles around the success of games like Blackout.
Which is so sad. I think if anything, it has sped up the timetable for, hey, Activision Blizzard, get Blackout out there for free. They've been slowly inching towards that and even selling it as a completely standalone thing. I feel like at this point, you got to do it. And they even, they're going to have an update soon for Blackout, which is exciting, of like adding a new place in the southeast in the desert. And like they're adding a crap ton of buildings apparently. But I mean, that community is so pissy about not having more updates. I don't know how they'd react if it just went completely free to play. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
Did you have thoughts on the Activision Blizzard news this week, Imran?
It's sad.
Yeah.
Like, it's 800 jobs, which is, that's a number that it would be almost entire other industries. Like, it's...
So the crazy layoffs, just for
I could not believe that Kotick
here.
was like, we did so well this year, and the same day he fired 800 people.
It is crazy to have that on the exact same day. And so I think from my reading, it was like, oh, there's a lot at Blizzard, but not entirely Blizzard. It went beyond Blizzard as well for those overall layoffs, right?
It was Blizzard, Activision, and King. Yeah.
And King. Okay, it's so wild. Did they say something about Black Ops 4 underperforming?
It didn't meet expectations, so it's under year over year. So World War II did really, really well.
Yeah.
And it bucked the trend of Call of Duty going down every year, but Black Ops 4 went below World War II, so it's back to a declining state.
But still, at the same time, it was the best-selling game last year.
Yes.
That's where it gets absolutely insane. Like,
it's also like as the developer say, like you didn't do anything wrong necessarily. It's just like they mentioned like, oh yeah, we did better than we've ever done before, 2.38 billion or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But we expected to do like 3 billion. So all these people are getting fired because our expectations were effectively out of whack. So
yeah,
so
they want growth more than anything.
Right, and it's like as someone who's working at either Blizzard or Treyarch, you've made some of the best games, most well-selling and most critically acclaimed of the year, and yet like you are not safe from layoffs just based on the decisions of executives.
Wild. Anyways, Chris Lee from Four Corners US. Is he from Four Corners, like the States? Like where all those intersect?
He travels around.
Anyways, he says, hey, a couple weeks ago, y'all were talking about translators, and Reeves mentioned being in a rather uncomfortable interview, so now I gotta ask, what's the most awkward encounter you've had with a developer or anyone within the industry? No need to name any names. It'd be better if you did, but we don't have to. Most uncomfortable encounter. I think of an E3 maybe 2 years ago, something like that. It was just like some bar some night at E3 and, a bunch of industry folks in there and stuff. And I'd been talking to this person that I knew I'd met like a couple times. And she said like, oh, I was going to this party at this bar or something later. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll see you there. And so I was at this party talking to this community manager from a very big studio, a friendly chit-chat. And then the person who had said they're going to come to the party, she came up to the conversation. And I was like, oh, hey, good to see you. And I gave her a hug. And then slowly realized it was not the person I thought. And then I learned that it was actually the community manager's wife that just walked up to the conversation, and I thought it was this other person. And so from this community manager's point of view, I'm just a crazy person that hugged his wife out of the blue. I had never met them before. It was extremely uncomfortable, and I think might prove the point even further that I have some sort of facial blindness thing, or I'm not able to detect faces in any real way.
You didn't recognize your sister at one point, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so
it's
Hanson,
a serious problem.
This is...
Oh, Imran.
That's right.
All right, great.
Perfect.
Well, that's Imran.
Oh, I see. And you never have any awkward encounters, though, Cork, right?
Nothing that stands out because the baseline is pretty grim.
Yeah, I see. John Allentown from Pennsylvania has a great suggestion saying, hey, Mortal Kombat 11, they need some sort of guest character. I bet it's going to be the Night King from Game of Thrones. It's like, that's a really good one.
That would be pretty good.
I think that's a great
How about
choice.
Sauron?
No, not so much.
You don't think they would do that?
Sauron?
Why wouldn't they do that? It's freaking Warner.
Yeah, I guess. Well, he brings up that it's interconnected with HBO. Warner is as well. Warner Media owns HBO, so they can do that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Sauron. Who cares about Sauron these days?
Badass armor.
Yeah, he's
About the
fine.
Night King.
The Babadook.
The Babadook.
Tom Awesome from Roseville, Minnesota.
Tom Awesome?
Yeah.
Okay.
He says, hey, I had the flu and missed 3 days of work this week. What is your go-to sick day activity? And when's the last time you got really sick?
It was a couple weeks ago.
It's about a week ago.
So what do you do?
I binge on MasterChef. I'm watching from the very beginning.
Yeah.
I'll just watch a lot of TV, yeah, because it's like
Yeah.
a lot of the... You don't want to like put in the effort for video games when you're really
No.
super tired. And otherwise I would read, but again, it's one of those things where you have to actually put in effort to do those things. So it's like
Yeah.
binging TV is like such an easy option.
Yeah, I'm totally with
Yeah, I just fall asleep, and then whatever I'm watching is whatever I'll stay watching.
you. Luke from Holland, Michigan says, hey, Ben and crew, I've been wondering about the different game studios and the uniqueness of each. For instance, which ones are located in the weirdest or remote spots? Which ones have the best food in the surrounding areas? Which teams are the most fun to be around? Also, most importantly, and this is the question I'm interested in, naming names, who is your favorite person in the industry? This could be games media, or it could be on the development side. Favorite person in the industry?
It's Tim Turry.
Really?
Absolutely.
Number one.
Number one, Tim Turry.
Over like Tim Schafer.
Yeah.
Tim Curry.
Tim Turry.
Wow.
Game Informer alum. Yeah, he's my favorite.
PlayStation alum. He's on the PlayStation podcast
Capcom.
now. That podcast was very fun to hear.
Never heard of it.
Okay, that's not important. Yeah, not so much on Tim. I was thinking. I think it might be Jake Solomon from Firaxis.
Why?
He's fun. He's bombastic. He's like brutally honest. I love that he's been at Firaxis for 1,000,000 years. And he's still excited about it. Mm-hmm. He's got everything.
Total package.
The total package. Okay. Yeah, he's easy on the eyes. It's incredible.
All right.
He lets me hug his wife.
Come back to me. I'm trying to.
Okay, Imran, who do you got? Number 1.
Yoko Taro was really, really fun to talk to.
Oh,
interesting. This is Nier creator.
Mm.
Yeah.
You just get lost in those paper mache eyes. He wears a mask. That's the joke.
Yeah.
I like Ed Boon quite a bit just because, like,
Big Booney.
He is in such a position of power to just mess with people in terms of any sort of like Mortal Kombat info where he'll just randomly have an image and people are like, does this mean you've confirmed this character? And he'll just he's really fun when it comes to messing with his fans.
He's like a little Kamiya Jr. in that way.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't block people as much.
That's right. Hello, Benvolio and the Mercutio crew. This is Chad Everett Mullinex from Michigan Drive, West Virginia. Okay. He says, hey, long-time listener, first-time writing in, and he has a doozy. I've never had anything interesting to say or add to the show. That is until now. Considering some of you guys are fans of Jackbox, I decided to put together a little this or that game for your playing pleasure. In this version of the game, the moderator will read the name of a game, and the players need to say whether the game featured the voice talents of Nolan North, Troy Baker, or both. Ready for this? Okay, let's go here. The crew.
Nolan North.
Nolan North, Troy Baker, or
Troy
both?
Baker.
Troy Baker is in that. He plays Alex Taylor. Yoga Wee. Troy Baker, Nolan North, or both?
North.
Yeah, Nolan North.
That was Troy Baker. He's the instructor for Yoga Wee.
Oh, yeah, that famous role he did.
Assassin's Creed.
Nolan North.
That one is North.
That one's North. He played Desmond Miles. Who can forget? Telltale's Tales from the Borderlands.
Troy Baker.
That's Baker.
That's both. Reese and
Lord.
August. Destiny.
Nolan North.
Correct. You got it. Batman Arkham VR.
Troy Baker.
Correct.
Baker.
Ghostbusters. The classic 2009 joint.
North and Baker.
Yeah.
Wait, what are we going?
North and Baker.
Nope.
Oh,
that is just Baker. He played Slimer in Ghostbusters. I had no idea. Now I respect him as an artist.
Clogged Drain was not available.
Little Big Planet 3.
Nolan North.
God of War 2005. Correct, by the way. God of War 2005.
That's Baker?
2005? That's only Nolan North. God of War 2018.
That's the one I was
That's
thinking.
both. You got it. Far Cry 4.
Baker.
Baker.
Yep.
Baker.
Advanced Warfare.
North.
That's Baker. This goes on forever. Let me find the other strangest game. Oh, Prince of Persia.
Baker?
Baker. No, North. Sorry.
That's a North joint. Mafia 2.
North.
Baker.
Mafia 2 was the one where North was talking to himself.
Ooh, very
that
good call.
Eleanor?
That's
Oh, yeah,
Alberto
no,
Clemente from Mafia 2. Mafia 3.
Both?
That's North. Resident Evil 6 had Troy Baker in it. I had no idea. Alpha Protocol had Nolan North, of course. Shadow Complex, Nolan North. Halo Wars 2, Nolan North was in that. Troy Baker's in Catherine. This is bizarre. Thank you, Chad, for writing in.
Troy Baker,
Enlightening
I think,
our
is
lives.
Vincent in Catherine.
He plays Vincent Brooks. Good call, man.
Yeah.
I was talking to Office sweetheart Kyle Hilliard about this the other
Yeah.
day. It seemed for a while that Nolan North or Troy Baker were red hot not too long ago. Remember they had that YouTube or streaming show where
I
they're
think it's
gonna
called
play.
Replay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Do you ever hear anything about
Them?
them right now?
It wasn't that long ago they were doing that replay stuff.
That might have been like early last year.
Dude,
But it was
just prep
inescapable whenever like they were in a game. That was like a huge part of the PR rollout.
I think it's just that Naughty Dog hasn't released a game in a little while.
Oh,
I mean, Baker's in Death Stranding.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we're still seeing a lot of that pop up.
He's still
because
read
Kojima
online.
just doesn't like him though. He's like,
I don't want to talk about it.
this guy.
A couple thoughts here. Somebody wrote in saying Blade Runner, the final cut, is the greatest work of art of all time. Tell me where this lands on the creepy spectrum. or if it's sophisticated.
Is this another game we're going to play?
Oh,
No, it's the greatest work of art of all time. This is Nick from Westbury, New York, and he says, hey, just wanted to touch on the debate about what is mankind's greatest piece of art. It's the female form. They give birth to life and are one of the most beautiful creations known to man. They may not be art in the form of media, etc., but they are art nonetheless. Jeff Cork, scale of 1 to 10. Where's that on the creepy spectrum?
That gets 4 hornies.
Okay. All right.
It's also like, I guess it's mankind didn't necessarily. It's not like a work. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I think they were made from men's ribs, so technically, I think. Look, it's complicated. Actually, several more people wrote in saying it's the Bible, you idiots, which is fine. Chandler Miller has
Bible?
What's that?
The human Bible?
Chandler
Have you read
Miller.
that?
Chandler Miller writes in
very boring.
with the very insightful take that, hey, you will die before the greatest work of art is ever made. Thank you, Chandler.
Everything gets better.
Anyways, what do you guys like? Email of the week.
I think the Dis or Dat was fun.
Yeah, I like that one.
Dis or Dat's good. I like the third installment, Conundrum.
That was smart.
Flash Games is all right. Imran, how you feeling?
I'm liking the Dis or Dat.
You want to go Dis or Dat? All right. It's certainly a lot of work, and it's his first time writing into podcastinginformer.com. So let's give it up to Chad Everett Mullenix from West Virginia, Falling Waters, West Virginia, specifically. There we go. Congratulations. Thank you so much for writing in, everybody. We appreciate it.
So put it on the map right now without looking at an atlas.
Don't mind if I do. As for now, let's learn about Groundhog Day in VR.
Okay.
The interview coming up, it tells the full story of how that game came to be, what the game's actually like. And there's a couple of fun surprises along the ways, including, Jeff Cork.
Yes?
I might pitch a couple Sony Pictures VR games.
I bet they just loved it.
They were surprisingly good sports.
Accepted all of them.
That's right. Stay tuned for the interview. Here we go. Jake, Ethan, Raul, welcome to the Game Informer Show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's an honor to have you. All right, Jake, you're the easiest. You're the one on the right for us. What's your title? Where are you at?
My title is Senior Vice President of Virtual Reality at Sony Pictures Entertainment. So basically, I oversee all the immersive entertainment and virtual reality business for the Sony Pictures Movie Studio Group.
That is such a bizarre role.
I'm here in lovely Culver City, Los Angeles, on the movie studio lot.
So you're the one, when a new movie's coming out, they say, hey, Jake, we got a new Groundhog, or we got a Spider-Man Homecoming, for example, because you worked on that VR thing, right? It's like, what can you do in VR? And then you just brainstorm and find different VR teams to contract out?
Yeah, well, I'd like to sort of present it as it's a little bit of the reverse. We say, what movies do we have coming out in our theatrical schedule? What IP do we have in our catalog? And then potentially down the line, what's an original idea that we could bring in through immersive, through VR, that the Flatties group, the lovely theatrical group, or the TV group, could maybe turn into something that works in their world too. So it's really a collaboration of things that the movie studio is working on, like Spider-Man Far From Home, our next Spider-Man movie, or our incredible catalog, our library of Columbia and Screen Gems, Groundhog Day, or maybe even an original idea that could be told as a new story in this crazy format.
Gotcha. Okay. From Tequila Works, we have Raul Rubio over there.
Hi there.
Hey.
Yeah, my title is not as fancy as Jake's. I make games. So, yeah.
That's great. All right, you're a game person. You're a point of reference. None of this Hollywood nonsense. You're the one we're really going to connect to, Raul. No offense to you guys. Hollywood seems great. We also have Ethan Stearns from MWM Immersive.
Yeah. So I'm an executive producer over at MWM, and I run our division that's focused on making interactive. And we have a deep love for kind of, these new up-and-coming interactive platforms like VR and AR, and so that's been a focus of ours.
And so you worked on that Gnomes and Goblins VR experience with Jon Favreau?
We're working on with a great developer Weaver and Jon Favreau on Gnomes and Goblins, which hopefully we'll have announcements about soon.
Okay, very exciting. Okay, I'm very happy that I assembled all you guys here because I need to know the Groundhog Day VR game. How does this exist? It's something that should not exist. I assume you saw the reaction of everybody saying, "What the f*** is going on?" So please, what the f*** is going on? How did this happen?
That was exactly the response we wanted, actually. I think when we were looking at the title initially, we were excited for the world to say, what and why would they make this? But then be intrigued because they see the great team at KiloWorks being part of the project and knowing their past types of projects they had done. And I think when you sit back and you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense as a video game, because the narrative mechanic for the film is really like a gameplay mechanic. And we really leaned into that idea in order to sort of put narrative at the center of a game.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it on this podcast even before. Like, why don't they make a Groundhog Day game? Then it's like, well, in a way, every video game is already a Groundhog Day game. It kind of gets the beats out there. But I like that you guys are just going right for it. Okay. So how does it happen? Jake, I take it starts with you?
Well, it certainly starts with us from an IP standpoint, but it really was a conversation that we had with Madison Wells very, very early on. You know, we've been partners with Madison Wells in this immersive space for a while, and it was really a question of where is there an IP that this platform could highlight uniquely, right? So the idea of immersive in and of itself, it's one thing to make a game for traditional PC and console platforms. It's a fairly, I would say, mature business and platform in many ways, but because VR specifically is so new and the idea of immersive storytelling is so new, we actually wanted to try something different. And Groundhog Day, because of the core mechanic of the story being this time loop, repetitive kind of cycle, was sort of the thing that we said, well, that actually works as a game mechanic, but the narrative side of it, the story side of it, was something that was unique and different, and we could plug into this new platform. So it started off with an early conversation of identifying an IP in our catalog that we were interested in. Ethan was a big fan of it, and the team at Madison Wells was a huge fan of it from the beginning because, frankly, it's all about trying to lean into story while having really fun game mechanics tied in. Yeah. And then it became, all right, who's the best developer to work on this?
Right.
And then it's KiloWorks.
Absolutely.
No, they were the second choice, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other available. But the thing is, again, if you have been following our games since Rhyme or Sexy Brutal, etc., we have always been interested in how to develop narrative in this interactive medium. The thing is, literally, Sexy Brutal, it was a co-production with Cavalier Games Studios. It was defined as Groundhog Day meets, well, then there were none, right? Because it was a murder mystery. And Ethan was our mentor for a GDC talk that basically we did explaining how the concept of a spherical narrative, how these series of stories where in Invisible Hours we didn't have a time loop, but we have rifting. We allow you to repeat scenes and literally explore different ways on how to perceive the story, right? So we had this conversation and they were like, oh, wait, well, remember me? Well, I was like, how can I forget you? But it's like, well, don't you think that Groundhog Day, in a sense, is like being trapped in a video game? It was like, yes, of course. Yeah, every time you die, you repeat. I mean, yeah, of course. It's like, how would you feel working on Groundhog Day? And I remember the answer was something like, yeah, of course. But you only do original IPs, right? It's like, yeah, but it's f***ing Groundhog Day. Who is not a fan of Groundhog Day? And in a sense, I don't know who were the other guys, but there were no other guys. But the thing is, we got a lot of good experience with Invisible Hours and Sexy Brutal. So in a sense, it was a natural fit on how to develop the next step in this spherical narrative thing. Because in Invisible Hours, I mean, to be honest, it was more like a voyeur simulator. You could not alter anything in the story. You were just a silent ghost.
It's just an immersive theater experience, yeah.
Yeah, and then we noticed that people on VR, especially, well, when it started, people tend to be disruptive, which is the polite way of saying assholes, because they love just throwing stuff around, and that's how it works, right? And we said, okay, so being a disruptive element in the story is that maybe I'm talking to Ned Ryerson, and I start punching his face. And that's going to be fun, but more importantly, what are the ramifications of that? How that's going to affect the story? How is going to affect my perception of what's going on when I'm the only one who is aware that we are all trapped in a time loop? And for them, it's just one day, and at the end of the day, it will be raised. But for Phil Connors Jr., for the player, both of them are aware that they are trapped there. And that would be a huge change and basically a huge addition to this VR experience.
Yeah.
Which is, well, our main character is not silent. Basically, Phil Connors Jr. is enduring and suffering this emotional journey with the player, right? And that was a great opportunity to write something deeper. So it's not just throwing shit around, which is fun, but also something else. And yeah, that opens a lot of possibilities for narrative structures, pretty complex.
Just want to add to that a little bit, though. I think like the other thing that, outside of just the idea that there's this loop mechanic, I think the other thing is when we looked at Groundhog Day and what is Groundhog Day really about, it's about this character's evolution from being, you know, a piece of shit to turning into someone who really cares about the world around him and the people around him. Mm-hmm. And we thought that maybe, although that is a little bit more heartfelt than when we necessarily wanted to directly go against, there's something fun about playing with that idea, the evolution of a player and how a player goes through a game and learns new things, and solves puzzles and becomes more aware of their world. As someone once referred to it, I don't know if you've ever talked about this, like kind of Metroidvania in a way of like learning new things down the road that you can then reapply to parts of your life. And so the deeper into the narrative we got, the more we felt like it translated to game design in a really great way.
Yeah, the social Metroidvania, the moral min-max. Yeah.
In the sense that literally the puzzles are the stories and the stories behind the characters. So it's true that, well, in a philosophical level, the more you know others, the more you know yourself. On a gameplay level, that means that, yeah, the more you know those people and the more you know their deepest secrets, the best you are prepared to actually change the outcome of events that are going to unfold.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get into all that game design stuff. I'm still a little bit just fascinated by this idea of Ethan and Jake going through the possible candidates.
Let me tell you this story. It's a great story.
Please.
So I showed up, and my company and Jake had been already sort of working on a couple projects together. I jumped into the mix and was starting to talk to Jake. I was like, I really want to do something different. And Jake wanted to do something different as well, and had already sort of started down this path and talking with his partners at PlayStation about things that they wanted to try to do with the platform. And Jake I had a list of like all of these different IPs from within Sony and I think I worked for a studio a while ago called Brash Entertainment that did a lot of like licensed title products. I work for film studios that do a lot of all their businesses around licensing in games. And there's always this problem of like, how do you take an IP that works in a film format, and then how do you match that into an interactive space organically? And so when you look at this big list of all these amazing IPs that Sony produces, although they jump off the page as fantastic memories we have about them as cinema, they don't. It's like, oh, and then we'll make that a match game, or we'll make that, it'll just be like a shooter hallway.
Right.
And I think that Jake and I were really excited to try to push something forward that could take advantage of the medium of VR, and also to be challenging in how narrative operates in interactive, because that's the thing that I think on the cinema side, on the filmmaking side, what those groups are so interested in interactive and in VR. And we really saw that opportunity to use Groundhog Day to sort of bridge the gap in between really amazing game design and strong narrative and strong storytelling.
It is just literally you leafing through the catalog of Sony movies and being like, well, Groundhog Day, of course that would make sense, but there's probably something stopping us from using that license, right?
Well, there is a process that we have here, and there's a little bit of a process, but you know, we went to the key stakeholders. I sat in a room and kind of went through it with our key stakeholders, and everybody kind of came around to the idea of, all right, wait a sec, that's nuts, but that might actually work. And I think one of the proof points for us was the fact that Sony had actually taken Groundhog Day and turned it into a musical on Broadway. And so when you look at an IP that has moved across formats, that was to me a currency that we had to be able to say, look, this is something that has existed in one format for a long time. It's beloved. It's moved to another format. And by the way, a live show is probably as close to an analogy to what VR could be, narrative VR with game mechanics, as we have out there. So there was a proof point out there that I think helped grease the skids, if you will, with the internal process. And then it was just the enthusiasm with our partners at Madison Wells and a little bit of internal enthusiasm that got it to the point. And I think the other piece of it in the pitch was we weren't trying to retell the story. The exact story of the 1993 film is it's precious in many ways.
Perfect, yeah.
But what we need to do is modernize it. We need to move the story forward 25 plus years. We need to tell the story of the next generation. We need to stay within the familiar, iconic components of Punxsutawney and Gobbler's Knob and the diner and the characters that you love. But we want to move it forward. And that's something that was really important to us as a movie studio, and I think in this creative process, to tell a new story so that new audiences could love it and the nostalgia factor would still be there.
Yeah, so the people you have to talk to make this happen, I mean, Harold Ramis obviously has passed, the writer and director. Did you reach out to like the original screenwriter, Danny Rubin, I think is his name?
We did. We actually spent a lot of time very early on with Danny talking through this process and understanding really what was core about his original script and what mattered to him and what was important. And that was a really in-depth process. We spent a lot of time with a bunch of folks who were incredible consultants on this project. Joshua Rubin, who had a background at Telltale and was able to really sit with us and work with Danny. No relation, so they say, but I just can't buy that, how they're both named Rubin and not be related somehow. Anyway.
Did you learn anything? As like big Groundhog Day fans, when you're talking to Danny Rubin, did you have any insight of like, oh, I never understood this aspect of Groundhog Day? Because I remember, I think it was an interview I read a while ago with Rubin where he said that like, oh yeah, Phil Connors was in that for like 10,000 years. Like, yeah. I know we only saw select discs. Did you have any epiphanies like that where it's like, what? This is a new perspective on Groundhog Day?
Well, go ahead, Raul. I know we asked a lot of questions. We asked all the fanboy questions that we wanted to ask.
So the thing is, with Mr. Rubin, we talk about philosophy and the Buddhist aspects of Groundhog Day and what are the implications of, what happens when you are so diluted. And this is something Phil Connors said in the movie. I have died so many times, I'm not even a human. I'm not alive, right? So what happens when basically everything you were is diluted and is reborn out of helplessness in this limbo or purgatory? So suddenly you start realizing that it's not about you anymore, and you don't have any motivation or any goal of helping others, but you do it just because by making their lives and that day better for them, actually you are feeling good by doing that. So obviously there were a lot of ramifications, and actually we discovered the very, very obscure Italian version of Groundhog Day, which Danny Rubin helped with the script. That's something you should Google. And the thing is, Joshua spent a lot of time. In fact, there is a relationship between Danny Rubin and Joshua Rubin, is because Joshua's father was a friend of Danny Rubin. Actually, they were neighbors.
Oh, okay.
It's a very small world for the
okay, there you go.
There we go. Any other good deep cuts you guys got from talking to him?
Yeah. And the thing is, the more we thought about it is, imagine that you are Phil Connors. You spend literally millennia in the single day. For you, this is your universe. This is the only thing you have known for many lives. So suddenly you are out of the loop, and you are an enlightened person. You are literally the Buddha of Punxsutawney.
Interesting.
You are the perfect example of how a human being can aspire to be. And then, Rita, you love each other, you have children. But those children are not aware, no one is aware of your epiphany, your existential journey. The thing is that for Rita, you are just one guy that was one asshole, and now you are great. And for your children, that must be the worst experience ever, because you are going to grow up on the shadow of the perfect man. So imagine starting, I don't know, Papa, can you help me to ride the bike? He's like, he's I don't know, he's well, I was going. I don't know. I don't know any famous writer. Sorry, Tony Hawk. I don't know.
Tony Hawk. Yeah,
Tony Hawk. So he's the Tony Hawk. Papa, I want to play piano, and he's playing with the London Philharmonic Orchestra or something.
Right.
Papa, I don't know. I got some injury here, and he's a neurosurgeon. So basically, everything you try, you are going to fail. You are going to drop off because he is literally perfect. Because he could spend thousands of years doing that, perfecting everything he tried.
So the kids have a lot of resentment towards their father throughout this game.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe you are the perfect human, but maybe you are not the perfect father, because there's something that you were never ready for, right? And that's why we chose to tell Phil Jr.'s story, not Phil Sr.'s story.
Right.
Because Phil Sr. is an amazing kind of person. He's loved by everyone in this little universe of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. He's God. But that doesn't mean that for Phil Jr. that should be a good example. In fact, he has a lot of daddy issues, and that for him, Punxsutawney is the worst place on earth. He ran away to Pittsburgh. So yeah, you can imagine how feels that. And he doesn't want to know anything about any of the inhabitants of Punxsutawney, Nev Ryerson, for example. He's still going to go Bing after 30 years.
Okay.
And what they do see. So basically that's the starting point on, you know what? This person is literally what a young Phil Connors was, with no knowledge or realization of what it feels to be here, right? And suddenly we are going to put you in the shoes of your father in the same situation, so maybe you get some perspective. As Ethan said, maybe you can become selfless.
Do you
realizing that it's not about you anymore?
Yeah. So at some point he realizes that his dad was stuck in a loop, and then he gets stuck in a loop. How do you set up the loop for the son? Is it just whatever? He's selfish, so it triggers.
That's quite a spoilery, but they can tell you that the thing is, we play with the idea that if you were Phil Connors, how can you prove you were trapped in a time loop? There's no physical proof. Anything you did is gone because it never happened. For everyone else, it never happened, right? So we have this lore where Phil Connors actually create some kind of fables on how to explain the concept of time and life and death and, community to his children, even Rita. But for all of them, those were just metaphors because, again, now Phil Connors is a philosopher. So when you literally are in the same situation, you are in denial because it's like, no, this cannot be happening. And you slowly realize that, hey, maybe this story is my father told me, maybe it was something literal. No, that's impossible. How can you explain that, right? And that's basically a starting point on how to transfer that first steps in VR of, this is going fun and physical, into something that, actually we can have several layers of narrative here that is up to the player to explore and discover. Yeah. And that's how you build the story.
Did you all consider different settings other than going back to the same location and getting away from the family? Did you think about just, Groundhog Day, it's universal. You could set it anywhere in the world starring anybody. Why make it the sun? It feels like, no insult to your industry, but it feels a little bit like the Hollywood cliche. Like, it's a sequel. I don't know. It's the sun. It's Son of the Mask here. Here we go. Like, did you have discussions, and what led to that choice?
I mean, I think when we talk about working with the IP but then telling a new story, we definitely want to keep certain iconic components of it that are part of the tone, are part of the nostalgia, that sort of bring back the reasons why you kind of loved the original story. And I think that this falls into the challenge of how do you tell something new? How do you tell sort of evolved story, but then also pay correct homage to what the source content was?
Right. Yeah.
One of the analogies from
I think Phil Connors was into something when he tried to kill the Punxsutawney Phil. I think the Groundhog is behind everything.
Oh, interesting.
But I must say that in this story, it's not Groundhog Day. It's the day before Groundhog Day.
Not too much spoilers here, right?
No, that's interesting. That's interesting. Jake, did you have thoughts on why setting it there?
Groundhog Day.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're good.
All right.
Jake, do you have any input on that?
I was just going to say, no, it's like a motion activated, like whatever. One of the analogies on the story choice was, from a studio standpoint, our Jumanji movies. We made a movie with Robin Williams many years ago. We made another movie with Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart and Jack Black. It's still the familiar world of Jumanji. It's just the story forward. And so for us, if you're going to use the IP, which is really what we're about, we've got to find the iconic components of the IP that people remember, but we wanted to creatively move the story forward so it can be a new story.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important challenge, but also part of the fun of what we're trying to do. And hopefully people will respond to it in a way that works.
Yeah. So sitting in the same place, making it the son of Phil Connors, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that, obviously. Can you say anything about the cast? Have you reached out? Can you promise any returning cast from the film, or how does this work?
It's we don't want to tell too much about it. It's there are obviously challenges with bringing cast back to a certain degree. It can be really important, but we're really focused on the new cast and the new generation that we have here, all of the kids. So there are callbacks, there are components that will certainly bring back what people remember from the original. But the real focus for us is driving forward this new cast.
Okay.
Yeah, I think to that, I think also, like, you hear the in the trailer, you're actually hearing our main character, Phil Jr., talk.
Yeah.
And this actor, Garrett, who came on to take that role. And as you can imagine, a significant, 6-hour game in which your player is talking a lot, he has a lot of lines. And I think that going back to what are the core elements of Groundhog Day that make it so charming and wonderful was finding someone at the center of the story who was an asshole, but you kind of liked, and you could believe in his sort of emotional evolution throughout the title. And I think Garrett was amazing at helping us find that character correctly so that we had someone that was both fun and funny and dark, but not so dark that you were just depressed through all the scenes.
Right.
I think that was something that that we really wanted to emulate for the main character.
So Garrett managed to become a charming asshole. So,
that's a delicate line.
It's who he really is.
Yeah.
It's who he really is.
And the fact that you say that you don't want to get too far into it, you don't want to spoil anything. Is it the idea that maybe 1 or 2 cast members will be coming back? Can you promise any cameos, or is it just completely right out, no connection cast-wise?
I don't want to make any promises. I mean, it's a slippery slope for us to making promises at this point. We think we have a great game and a great cast, and everything in it is really packaged to be what we want it to be. But you never know.
Never know. I take that to mean, and you don't have to react in any way. I'm assuming that means several emails and voice messages left on Bill Murray's agent's line or whatever, and you haven't heard back, but you still have your fingers crossed.
No comment.
No comment. All right. I think it'd be a tough get. You hear horror stories about him being dragged into the studio to record the Ghostbusters video game, and I think it was pulling teeth. So best of luck to you guys. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So trying to understand how the actual game works. You talk about okay, he's an asshole, but then he gets more generous. Obviously, he becomes enlightened, the whole thing. I mean, are you stuck in that role? Can we start out the game and just get out of the loop day one because we're so generous?
I would tell you that you should be actually an angel to achieve that. Right now, I think it's physically impossible because in order, again, there's no traditional puzzles in the game in the sense that I need to find a key or whatever. But remember that you need to become selfless by helping people. And that means that their attitude towards you needs to change. So yeah, even if you know what's going to happen, people are not going to believe you. So it's not as easy as it seems. I mean, obviously in the movie, you could see all the loops, and the last loop for Phil Connors was it's the perfect day for me. That took a lot to the fore. So I could tell you that no, you are not going to be able to get out of this in one look, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I think, we're playing with the idea that the player is evolving as the player sort of learns more about the world that they're in, and so they can't. I don't know if this is directly what your question is. Yeah, they can't win the game on the first playthrough.
Right. How much of a sandbox is it, though? I mean, can we still do whatever we want? Do you encourage that?
Sorry, there's a phone ringing.
All right, Ethan will answer the other line. That's fine. I think it's IGN calling.
Looking after us. The thing is, there's one point in the game, and again, I don't want to spoil anything, where Phil Connors is aware that so how my dad got out of this? Oh, helping people. So okay, so I help others. I'm out of this, right? It doesn't work like that. Right. So even if you are trying to help people out of selfish reasons because you want to get rid of the time loop, it's not so easy. In fact, as Ethan mentioned, it's more like an inner journey on how you transform yourself.
Right.
It's not just about helping others. So this is some of the philosophical discussions we have with Joshua and Danny Rubin.
That's super fun.
It's like what it means to the perfect day. I mean, when you start the Groundhog Day, like father, like son, is the worst day ever for Phil Connors Jr.
Yeah.
How do you transform that into the best day ever? Because the worst day ever can be the best day ever. It's up to you. It's up to you. How is your point of view? How is your attitude? How others see you? So you will discover this as you explore deeper and deeper layers of what this little town and its inhabitants have to offer.
Yeah. So how much of a sandbox is it, though? I mean, are you going to be locked into doing these things, or can I just go into the game and just kill myself 300 times?
Jake, can you kill yourself 100 times?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that we were aware is that we don't want this to be a suicide simulator. I mean, obviously, there's dark humor in the game, but we don't want it to make it green out of making it green. So I'm not going to say that there are not potentially fatal situations in the game, but just killing yourself is not going to solve anything. In fact, that's probably going to depress the players. In the end of the day, a time loop is not about repetition. It's about the variation, how these little subtle changes are becoming this day into something else.
So it is.
You start again and again. I don't want to spoil anything because it's too soon.
Right.
Maybe this game is literally terrible, horrible. It's hell on earth. Maybe by anticipating the course of events, maybe I can do something to prevent, even if it's for selfish reasons, something, and now this opens new possibilities. So it's not like a sandbox game in the sense of Red Dead Redemption or GTA.
Right.
No, we are not going that way. It's more like what happens when the narrative is non-linear? What happens when the narrative is literally dependent on my actions as a player?
So is it a little bit like an immersive theater experience then, where you're just figuring out like, okay, I know this person needs help. I'm seeing this homeless person die on the sidewalk this time, but in order to do that, I need to convince this person in the soup kitchen to give me the food. And it's just kind of like those types of soft puzzles and just being in the right place at the right time?
It could be even something deeper, like maybe, that food is going to kill one person because this is not happening, okay, but it's an example. Maybe that food is going to kill you because you are going to suffer a heart attack, and it's like, don't eat the donut. It's going to kill yourself. It's like, come on, only one. It's like, but it's going to kill you. So it is more like, again, as I said, it's about knowing what's the motivation, what are the goals, what are the dreams, what are the fears of each person. So it's not knowing about, I don't know, this guy is a sailor or maybe this is an accountant or whatever. It's more like, what is your meaning? I mean, what is the meaning of life for you? What are your fears? Like, for example, we know Ned Ryerson from the movie, but do you really know Ned?
No one's ever asked that before.
Do you really want to know?
So, like, in starting the game, you'll go and have like dialogue trees and just have like long conversations with Ned Ryerson, understand what makes him tick, stuff like that.
It's not like your traditional RPG in the sense that there are lots of dialogue trees and lots of conversations that you cannot skip. Doesn't work like that. In fact, maybe someone is talking to you and you're ignoring that person because you are so tired of listening to that person saying good morning every morning that you are just skipping that part.
Right.
Not answering a character, that's also an answer for the NPC. So it's more like AI driven in the sense that being an asshole, throwing your stuff while you are talking to me, ignoring you, that's also choices in the dialogues. So no, it's not about exploring all the options and see what happens. It's a little bit more physical than that. It's about me being inside the story. At the same time, I'm supposed to be an actor. I can be a very bad actor. I can be a good actor. I can create my own script.
Gotcha. Okay, so you don't want to be a suicide simulator. Other stuff. Let's see. Is there sex in the game?
Spoilers.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
I will say it's a dark comedy, and we're looking for probably an M for mature rating is what we're expecting.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay, for what kind of stuff?
I think language, situations, edginess. What else, Ethan?
Well, I don't know. Did we talk to any about James Ciliano from Rick and Morty's writer team? Was a huge piece of consulting on the narrative in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes even too far for us, but really brought a modern, dark sense of humor to everything that was really fun. And I think we learned early on that the vulgarity and the grittiness of what was there was the right direction to go with it instead of trying to make it a more all ages comedy.
Yeah, I can only say two things about this. One is thanks to James Siciliano, I discovered the worst words in the English language. Thanks to him. So that's something. Second, I remember being in the writers' room in Culver City, and it's like, whoa, with the writers. I mean, they are very, very talented, also very edgy, and it's like we cannot say that in a video. And I'm going to Jake, and he's like, Jake, we're going to cut this because it's too much. And he's like, no, don't cut it. Go farther. So yeah.
Okay.
You can expect pretty adult stuff in the game.
Can you learn skills in the game? I don't know if it's going to be like a Guitar Hero-like mini game or something, but it's like, am I going to just be able to get better at things like a piano?
You can get better at doing stuff. Some things are even unthoughtable for the human mind. But yes, of course. That's something that we wanted to try because it's like, again, if I were trapped in this game and it's just some stupid mini game, can I become the best player in the world? Can I do that? And what are the consequences of that? So yes, obviously yes. The answer
so it is mini games, and does it get like easier to represent your skill getting better, or is it really just like, hey, here's the mini game. If you want to play it every day, you will be good at it by the end?
One thing we didn't want to do is stupid mini games for the sake of stupid mini games. If you are going to play an instrument, you will play the instrument for real, and you need to actually get the skills to play it for real.
What does that mean?
I don't know. You want to play the piano, for example. It's not going to be some kind of a random mini game where we are just using the piano as an excuse or context. It's like it requires you to play the piano and understand music.
Understand music. That's interesting. Okay, the reset, is it on a timer for each day?
Obviously, the each day has a limit because that's how time and space work in the multiverse. So yeah, of course, you are going to restart the game. Every day at 6 a.m. you will wake up and you will have time until midnight, more or less.
Okay, so there is a clock running the entire time of the game, and at a certain point it'll just.
You should mention the phone too, Ethan.
Yeah, well, two things. I think one is that because the stories go, your path into stories go into different directions. Mm-hmm. Different days can be longer from a gameplay perspective. Yep. But the idea is that you're going through a day to night cycle, not in a you're not playing the game for exactly 12 minutes and then it resets.
Okay.
Like it's more of like playing through those moments of the day. The other thing too, and in that we did a lot of early thought about how does the player want to navigate this in an end game scenario, or so once someone's like gotten deeper into the story and really wants to try to figure things out. Can we force them to we wanted to stay away from the suicide simulator of like, okay, well, I need to end this scene, so I'm just going to put my hand into a toaster.
Right.
We just felt like that, although funny at first, like after a while, was just going to be kind of the main point of the game. And so we ended up doing a lot of interesting stuff with UI on a phone that you have. So there's no HUD in the game, but you can pull out a phone at one point, and you're a vlogger in the phone. So like you're very obsessed with yourself and obsessed with your phone. And so we built UI in there that helps you navigate in sort of a unique, I don't want to say too much about it, but like in sort of a clever way so that you can skip through things or go back or reset things via your phone, so that you're not forced to play throughout a day if you realize you made a mistake or want to try something a different time.
That sounds bizarre.
I remember we mentioned earlier that this is not a sandbox. So one thing that we realized from a design perspective very early is like, if I need to be aware of everything in time and space, like I need to be in Ned's corner at 12 a.m. and now I need to rush to Gobbler's Knob. That was pretty stressful. And we wanted people to actually enjoy and explore the possibilities of each scene. So right now the format is more like movie-like or cinematic in the sense that we have proper scenes and sets. So there is obviously those scenes happen in real time. So it's not like a point-and-click adventure where everyone is going to wait for you to do something. That's not how it works. In fact, not doing something is actually doing something in Groundhog Day.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that I need to rush and I need to walk down the street all the time to get to Gobbler's Knob, because that's not fun.
Right.
So that's why the phone.
The phone, you can jump around a little bit. That's interesting. Is there a song every time when you wake up?
Yep.
Is it licensed?
Is it what?
Is it licensed? Can you say what the song is?
It's licensed.
And the song is...
People will be very happy.
Great.
Put it that way.
Okay, please tell me it's the song from Russian Doll, the Gotta Get Up song. Have you guys watched Russian Doll?
No. It's part of the Sony catalog.
Maybe it's like DLC you can get in there. Are you guys watching Russian Doll? Have you seen that on Netflix yet?
Yes, it's amazing. We love it. I mean, all this stuff that plays into this idea, Groundhog Day is the progenitor of all these ideas. So
right.
We are honored that Netflix is doing Russian Doll, and we love that they're doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm really happy you guys are making this. I'm happy that those conversations somehow got through the system and that a new Groundhog Day experience is being released. It's just bizarre. So my hat's off to you guys.
Thanks. We love bizarre stuff. We hope everybody will be happy with it too.
Yeah. Is it always going to be exclusive to VR?
Not necessarily.
For now.
That's our focus on it right now.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And then is it PSVR exclusive for a window, or what can you say about that?
All platforms.
It's multi-platform.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And sometime in 2019?
Yes.
Sooner than later?
No, 2019.
Okay, at some point in 2019. Yeah. I couldn't help. Because it's Hollywood, I feel like I have to do a couple pitches. Because like looking through Sony's catalog, there's a lot of other opportunities for VR games for you guys. And I don't know.
Tell us.
I don't know what you've really thought about it.
What do your fans want?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak on behalf of all fans because I have 4 choices here. Ready?
So, I'm writing this down, by the way.
Please do. Okay, he's got a giant pen. Okay, so rhythm games in VR. Huge. Anything musical, anything with dancing, movement. It's really great. Dances with Wolves VR. You play as the wolf, dancing with Kevin Costner. What's better than that?
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Okay, great. I don't see Jake's hand moving. I don't think he wrote that one down.
Yeah, no, I got it on here. Look at that.
Great.
See that scribble?
Okay, here's what it is. You know what else is big? Like flying games, any sort of like cockpit games. Huge in VR. It's just a natural experience. So the ultimate flight/swimming experience, you take the opening scene from Look Who's Talking, you put that in VR. What's better than that?
You're joking, but the reality is I think a lot of people would love to do that. They would actually love to be there with a talking baby with, whatever it is.
Right. It'd be a little...
I know someone working on that game, actually.
Yeah. I think we proposed the flying sections of Lawrence of Arabia once.
We talked about Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, really?
A lot of sand in VR. People love sand in their headsets.
It looks so good.
Big. Sand's big.
It's huge.
All right, keep going.
Okay, here's what
give us the best one.
Okay, so if you want to make some money, you got to go for the big IPs that Sony Pictures owns, right? At this point? Okay, you might recall 1997's 6th highest grossing film of all time, ripe for VR, As Good as It Gets VR.
Yeah.
You play as the dog. You go down to shoot in the beginning. Everything's from the dog's perspective. Jack Nicholson can be there. I'm sure he's easier to get than Bill Murray. What do you think?
I think we should make that pitch. I think we could do it. I think we could come up with some crazy stuff with that. That's fantastic.
Okay, great. And then the last one, Hook VR. And it's just like an MMO experience where you're just trying to convince everybody in a social situation that Hook actually was a good film and that everybody's mistaken.
Well,
Hook was great.
Thieves is doing pretty well right now, so it seems like pirates are hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hook, just get that soundtrack. It could be just a black screen and just listening to the soundtrack. I would buy Hook VR.
Maybe we could just do some DLC with Rare.
Oh, yeah. That naturally works out. Thanks so much for taking the time here, guys. Anything else you want to say about the project?
We love you.
Yeah, big fans of the podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
big
that's
fans.
so sweet.
We love the project. Is great. It's a great team. We're excited for people to see it. It's different. It's unique. That's what we're all about. So hopefully people will really like it when we get close to launching.
Yeah, we're really excited. Definitely keep us in the loop. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, and we'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.